Breaking off all units. Fire at will. Pick a target. Want to stabilize the Gold 6. Anybody cover me? I got explosives on my tail. You've got to hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. Okay. Wait for reinforcements.
Power of the Force from Kenner. Straight from the Empire Strikes Back, it's the Rebel Snowspeeder.
Star Wars, the Clone Wars. The droid army has launched a full-scale attack, but clone reinforcements have just arrived.
And now for something completely different.
Hey,
Mysteries, take another bow, my friend.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Never fail to impress.
Wow.
I like that one. That was good. That was good. Hello, everyone who may or may not be watching, whether you're watching live, whether you're catching this on replay, whichever. Thank you for tuning in. This live stream, I think it's safe to say, the three of us at least, are very, very excited about. This is Star Wars side quests. And what I mean by that is essentially today we are going to get together and talk about our passion projects and our labours of love within our Star Wars collections, because I think it's safe to say recently, especially, current Hasbro products, be it Black Series or Vintage Collection, don't always necessarily cut the mustard. And so to scratch that itch, we've found ourselves veering off into other avenues of collecting and picking up toys from yesteryear or lines from other licensees that are doing what essentially current Hasbro product isn't, and that's exciting us and, you know, maintaining that love of Star Wars collecting. And so we've all come together we've all got three, like I said, side quests essentially that we want to talk about. But before we get into that, Dan, how are you doing?
Surviving, thriving, living it, loving it.
I'm kind of just like, you know, I'm at that point where I'm that used to having you guys on that I just completely forgot to introduce you. So obviously Daniel East 1000's with us, and we've got James back again, RoboQuiff Collects. James, you all right, pal?
I'm alright, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Jitters, got jitters. The audience is going up, and I'm scared. I'm being watched.
Oh, we're at 11 now.
I know.
It's
Tell you, we're winning that ratings war tonight, lads. Telling you.
Oh,
So before we get into the nitty gritty and all that sort of stuff, before we get into what's brought us here today to talk about, as I've alluded to on my social channels, I did want to make a little bit of a Star Wars celebration announcement on this stream, because two of us are going to Star Wars Celebration, and one of us is going to be sitting it out at home. Well, not at home, but, you know, they're in spirit. And so rather than, and we're not announcing anything physically for Celebration, but after Celebration, we are going to be coming together once again to talk about Celebration. And so on April the 14th, at around 7 p.m, potentially, details to be confirmed, Daniel, myself, and James will be talking about everything that went off at Star Wars Celebration, because I'll be at home watching everything that goes on live, and Dan and James will be there in person. And so we're going to hopefully bring a different perspective to Celebration, because I think if, you know, you two are going for very different things. James, I know this is your first Celebration. Dan and myself attended Celebration Europe back in 2016. And so we're all going to experience something a little different from this one. So obviously I'm going to be watching it as a fan, as a bystander, and I'll watch all the pre-recorded and live stuff that's going on. And then I'm hoping that you guys can provide us with some content that we can share during the stream and just talk about everything that gets revealed recently, basically, because I think there's going to be some juicy little tidbits that get announced. There's a big rumor about a movie, potentially.
3 movies I read today.
Ooh. See, it gets
Kathleen Kennedy's getting bold.
it gets more and more interesting as the days go on. But obviously, there's going to be a lot of panels there. I'm hoping you guys get into them if you've entered into those lotteries. I think that's one of the things that's really softened the blow for me about not going to Celebration is just how much is determined by luck this time around. Because a lot of stuff is lottery based and all that sort of stuff, and I'm not down for that. So my anxiety is at a pretty decent level because I haven't got all that sort of stuff to worry about. So I'm going to leave that to you guys.
I feel like we're on varied levels of anxiety. We've got you, who's like really. I feel like I should just be above James because I'm just like, would scream a bit louder, but I don't think my neighbour would appreciate it. But yeah, it'll be all right on the night, lads.
That's it. You've just got to go in and just enjoy it for what it is, and I'm sure you will. But yeah, we're going to come together. Like I said, April the 14th. Jot it down in your planners. I'll schedule the live stream when we go off air tonight. But yeah, April the 14th, possibly around 7 p.m. UK time. The three of us will be together on the channel again to talk about everything that got announced, revealed, and to talk about all the sites that you fine gentlemen saw on the show floor. What are you most excited about, guys, about Celebration? Because like I said, James, this is your first one. What are you really pumped up for this one?
Everything. Just God, that's like asking which kid's your favourite, isn't it? It's like it's impossible for me to put it into words at the minute. I don't know what to expect, and I do know what to expect. At the minute, what's definitely happening is I'm meeting D. Bradley Baker and Ashley Eckstein. So that the prices were daft, but for people from the Clone Wars that I've wanted to meet for years, when the only thing that's stopping me from doing that is myself in that situation, I thought, bugger it, it's happening. So I've worked me bag off at work. So, money won't be missed, let's say, and hopefully an exciting time to be had. And not many panic attacks, if we're lucky.
Fingers crossed for you, mate. I mean, to be fair, if it's your first Celebration, the prices were a bit of a gut punch, I think, for a lot of people, especially considering the economic state we're in the UK at the minute. But if it's your first one and you can, you might as well.
Unless it comes back to Europe and any time soon, I'm treating this as if it's my one and only chance, just in case. You never know.
Definitely. What about you, Dan? Because this is, like I said, this is your second one.
I think this time, having experienced it previously, as much as I'd love to get into panels, particularly Ahsoka, I think I can survive not. Because it's the buzz of everyone being there, everyone having a good time. Yeah, I might be a little bit salty about it, hearing everyone talk about exclusive footage, and I mean, be like, oh, we shall saw it. But at least I might get into the Celebration store a bit quicker. Because this fucking didn't book hyperspace lane thingy.
Oh, never mind.
It's fine.
Never mind.
There's always plenty to see. There's always plenty to do. And I think last time, I didn't really look. I mean, obviously, I had a chance to look around the whole thing, but I don't think I really took it in as much as I could have because it's always like, need to get to this panel, to this panel, let's do this. But Rogue One, they had that whole display of the costumes. So it's just, I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with the flow and just experience the floor, see what's there, have a goofy and a laugh.
To be fair, that mate is a really, really good point. And I think that's one of the things that maybe this time around I'm kind of happy that I'm going to miss, because I tried way too hard to organise everything when I went in 2016. I really, really did. And I mean, I must admit, I managed to just about see everything that I wanted to see. That included panels, that included exhibitions, and that included getting into the Celebration store, which I didn't book a hyperspace lane slot for. So, I mean, there you go. So you're probably going to be able to do it all anyway. But it's just one of those things, like, you've just got to take it all in. And if you spend so much time trying to plan it down to a T, you're going to lose a lot of that fun factor, I think. And
you're going to miss something anyway, because I had loads of people saying, "Oh, I saw Gareth Edwards signing posters at the poster booths," and I'm like, "What? I missed that." You're going to miss it. You're going to miss something, but
Yeah.
that's okay, because you're there with people who love the franchise and
That's
aren't
it.
salty about it because it's become woke.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
it hasn't. It
Yeah.
hasn't.
Couldn't have put it better myself. But yeah, I mean, for everything that you miss, there's about 10 different things that you're going to see. So, you know, it's fine. Like you said, just take it in, just breathe it in, enjoy it, because we don't know when it's going to come to London again. I mean, we're not getting another celebration until 2025, and that's definitely probably going to be stateside anyway. So, you know, just take it in, man. Enjoy it.
That's it.
Soak in the sun.
That's it. I'm buzzing for your birth. I really am. Like, especially you, James. I'm really excited for you to experience it, because it is just it's undescribable. It's such an amazing event.
Yeah.
And if everything runs smoothly, then yeah.
Yeah, it feels surreal. It does. It's like I never thought it'd come back to London, to be fair, because they seemed like they wanted to keep the celebration close to the Disney parks for the last 4 or 5 years. So
yeah, I must admit,
I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm quite surprised it came back so soon. I mean, it seems crazy to say that it's back so soon when the last one was 7 years ago, but you know, is it 6 years? No, it's 7, isn't it? Now, Jesus, yeah, 7 years. Christ, that's gone so fast. But yeah, it's going to be amazing. So yeah, come back to the channel April 14th, Star Wars Celebration recap with the three of us. I'm really excited to talk about it with you guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. And so that brings us to, let's just get rid of that. There we go. That brings us to the point of today's stream, Star Wars side quests. So shall we just dive right in?
Completely different.
There we go. That's it. And it is different. I mean, not necessarily for your channel, Dan, but Star Wars Legion. Let's talk about that first and foremost.
So yeah.
It's different for my channel. I've never talked about this. I don't know what I'm talking about. So the glory.
Neither do I, really.
You know more than me. You know more than me. But
He says.
Well, I hope you've done a little bit of research, because I'm opening up the floor to you, my friend. And so this is.
Let's get into the rules, shall we, everyone? Right. Let's talk about movement. War has engulfed forget that. Right, my channel, we do mini painting. We don't do wargaming. We just paint little Bobby Tiddlers with a paintbrush and a paints. That's what I'm mainly into it for. I mean, I got into miniature painting through another sci-fi thing, Warhammer. Moving on. So I was always like, I wish there was a Star Wars miniature game where you could paint them and build them, do what you want with them. And there were Star Wars miniatures by Wizards of the Coast. The miniatures look naff. Absolutely gash. Don't even know. Shocking. Even for them standards. But, you know, very popular game. Along comes, years and years later, Fantasy Flight Games. And they introduced Star Wars Legion. I'm like, oh, I don't want to dip my toe in it a bit yet. Because it's like Star Wars I put on a pedestal. It's like, I'm not worthy to paint a Star Wars mini. So I got into that. I pushed myself. It's like, you know what, go for it. Do it. And I did. So I got the main, as most people would, got the main starter set. Core box set, which has all your rules. It has all your things and movement rules, things like that. It gets you into it. And to be honest, when I've played a game, it is simple to play, which is lovely. Don't need 2 rule books for it, like a certain war game has. So yeah, I love Star Wars Legion because the miniatures aren't over encumbered with stupid detailing. Stupid detailing that takes you a year to paint. And it looks naff after it, but these, you just do a nice little job on it. A little bit of wash. Nice. So that's what I like about Legion. It's lovely. It's fun. I'm not very good at playing the game. I'm trying to learn it, but somehow I managed to fluff up the rules some way. That's fine. That's okay. These things happen. It's all a learning curve. It's a laugh. It's a goof, a gaff, and a laugh. And that's what I like about Legion. It's mainly about the miniature paint side of things, though.
Pretty straightforward then, really.
Oh shit! I've taken up 5 minutes of your time. I'm sorry. Like watching paint dry.
No, we leave that to you, mate. We leave that to you. So, like, is this safe to say, like, a new obsession? Because I think, were you collecting these at the same time that Micro Galaxy Squadron was announced? Because I know that, like I said, I was going to say the purpose of like talking about what we're talking about today is the fact that, you know, what else have we ventured into that isn't current Hasbro product, because Hasbro product isn't doing it for us.
Yeah.
Was this something that you were like, okay, I'm not bothered about the figures, I'm not bothered about Hasbro figures at the minute, they're not doing it for me, so I'm gonna do this? Or was it Micro Galaxy Squadron first, and then through that you were like, or vice versa?
I think it was through this mainly. Like that was like a starting point where I'm like, oh, okay, there are other like companies doing stuff with Star Wars, and this was like something that scratched my itch, because like when I used to do Warhammer, there's a great video on it on my channel. Watch it. It's the start of the video painting series that I've done.
Yeah, I was just about to say, get that plug, mate. That's what you're here for.
That's because I'm shy about it.
Shameless plug, man. Come on, you're putting in the hours, so you need to tell people about it.
Effectively. So my video painting, my series of my miniature painting, it's just me painting miniatures. They're quite chill for the most part, relaxed, and I try and be semi sort of as a newbie. I'm looking at it through the eyes of a newbie. I'm not there to say you should do it like this, it needs to be like that. I'm very lax, because I'll show my warts and all the errors I do for the most part, and it's like, learn from it, do better than me, because this is just really simple stuff. So that's what I like, and that's the reason why I made this video, really, but like the series, because when I went to my wargaming club for Warhammer, they're all a bunch of losers at the time. I'm sorry to say, but they were all like, oh, you have Space Marines? Oh, that's going to be no match against my Tyrannid army, is it? Have you got your Codex? Oh, he hasn't even got it. It was just bullshit like that. It's like, right, I've been here for a couple of weeks, and I've now had a Coke can launched to my head. True story. You can hear about it in the video series that I've done. I just thought, you know what? This miniature painting, what a bunch of losers. I'm not. And that, when I went into Games Workshops as well, they didn't really show you how to paint at that time, because it's like, oh, the parents are there. They'll buy them anything. We'll sell them anything. Won't even bother teaching them. Nowadays, they're a bit more like, oh yeah, we'll try and teach you how to paint, get you into the hobby. Bit more inclusive, rather than just being like, what do you want? I don't know. Me want Space Marine, because that's on everything. So this is what I like about Legion, because, well, I mean, modern sort of wargaming is a bit, you know, it's a bit of a minefield to navigate. And I like the hobby inside of it more than anything. I'm not really a wargamer at all. I just like having miniatures, painting them, and enjoying them through that. And it's something different to Hasbro. If Hasbro is going to make a figure that I have to then enhance, why don't I just buy a miniature and do it myself? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's what it's the point.
So it's like it's sort of tapping into like the inner customizer in you a little bit, I suppose, isn't it? Like you don't want you want to be like, and that's the good thing about Legion, I suppose, is that's its primary objective is to be painted up, so you haven't got to risk ruining a Black Series figure or a Vintage Collection figure.
You've started off with
do what you want with them.
Yeah, you've started off with a grey slate. You've painted it up how you want, and you can then put it on the table and have little fights with them. So Captain Rex can face off against Boba Fett, and I'm sure someone in the comments going to be like, can't do that. You can't have Galactic Republic versus Empire. Shut up, you can. Do what you want. So yeah, that's what I like about it. It's the fact that you have a blank slate. You can paint it how you want. You can even build it how you want. And with the power of 3D printing technology, this is going to be the next video in my series. So keep an eye out for that.
Look at that.
So I'm really bloody proud of this.
Oh, mate, you should be. Look at that. That is insane.
We've got a video coming up on it. It's taken a bit, mainly because I've been waiting for the actual 3D printed models. But that's what I love about the Legion stuff is you can buy the miniatures, but then there's people out there doing 3D prints of stuff, of things that you can add to your models. Like there's for the Separatist tank, is it the AAT? You can get a lot dirt miniature. Someone's made a 3D print file for that, and you can put a lot dirt on it. Or a battle droid with his little goggles. Absolutely insane what people are doing. The creativity, is wonderful. It's great to show off. And yeah, that's going to be the next Joy of Miniature Painting video. If you want to check that out when it does go live, date pending. So yeah, it's kind of really just spawned. Originally, I was like, I'm just going to get, original trilogy, stick to that. But then
you
it expanded.
said that about Black Series.
It's expanded from
everybody says that about everything, though, don't they?
to that, and then I bought some more, and I bought loads of boxes, and it's kind of insane how small they are and how big the boxes are. But nonetheless, that's by the by. But it's grown an insane amount, and shall we play the clip?
Let's play the clip.
Let's play the clip.
Like as I also alluded to on the post that I made on socials about this, you're getting 3 collection tours in one during this live stream because we're all talking about our little passion projects and our side quests. We're going to show you our collections of said side quests. So this is Dan's collection of Star Wars Legion.
Power of the Force from Kenner. Straight.
That's the wrong clip.
There we go. I was wondering what happened there.
Amazing collection, Dan. I absolutely love it. Let's try that again, shall we?
Smart art. Yeah.
No, I mean, I didn't quite realise until you sent me that clip to chuck in the stream just how. I'll not say carried away because I feel like carried away is a.
Oh, it is carried away.
No, but it's not an accurate term though, is it? Because to get carried away with something means that you're just like, whoa, I'm just going to go mental and throw everything at this, even though I don't necessarily want to. But I think it's safe to say, like what you've put together there. I mean, the fact that each of those miniatures on that shelf is hand painted, is just absolutely insane. JCC 22224 is in the chat, and he says, "Looks like Dan really has a Star Wars Legion. Please laugh."
Please laugh.
You got your laugh, JCC 22224.
No, but for real though, that like what an insane amount of, and I'm going to say it, skill and talent that takes. Yeah. Like I've watched a couple of your Joy of Painting videos, mate, and honestly, I wish that, I mean, we've all got hobbies. I mean, look at it.
Yeah.
But that is taking a hobby and that's taking it to the next level, and that's what I really love about it. And like, like speaking to you on Facebook and in person and stuff about this, and hearing how buzzing and how excited you get about it, it's just like that. It radiates, and you can tell just how much you like. I never hear you talk about Black Series figures or Hasbro stuff like that. And I think you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said about like the creativity aspect of it, and I love that. for you. Like, I've not got the patience
sure.
or the talent or the
I,
gumption to do what you're doing, mate. But bloody
think
hell.
the thing I love about Legion is it's the thing that cosplayers really have a thing about Star Wars, and for me it's the physicality. So that's why I collect figures in the first place. It's because it's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's an accurate representation, something that looks like it's been dragged off screen, and it's mostly accurate for the most part as to what it should represent. When Hasbro used to do that, it's kind of drifted off away from that. So for me, when I'm painting Star Wars Legion and I've got a bunch of minutes, it's like creativity is just endless, because it's like, well, I've got these stormtroopers. Do I just go for normal? Do I lever them up a bit? How do I make them look a bit unique? And then something like that happens,
Yeah, a bit of Force Unleashed.
I'm like,
Love that.
oh, you know what I can do? I can do a Force Unleashed. And I'm like, oh god, the lining, that's going to be stressful to do. But then it's actually, I do it. And I'm like, okay, that was relatively, simple-ish. Bit of time, but we get there. That's what I really enjoy about it, because it's like you're not limited to painting it how it says it should be on the box. You're not limited to building it, particularly with Legion. Oh god, Legion. Because Legion is a not what you see is what you get kind of game, where if you've got a Rabuti Gullyman and he's got a flame sword, he can only use the flame sword and the twin plasma cannon. With Legion, it's like, you build it how you want, but just follow the damn card, okay? You be creative, just follow the little cards that you get in your little box, and everything's hunky-dory, and, it's just a joy. It's a joy of miniature painting.
It's almost like what Lego used to do back in the day, when they used to include an instruction manual and like, this is the set that you've got to build, but look at what else you can build as well out of the same set. And they don't do that anymore. But like you said, with Legion, it's like you don't have to paint it the way it says on the box. You can do what you want to do with it.
It gives you like ideas, certainly, but because it's Star Wars and it's like there's unlimited different trooper designs, trooper colours. I ended up doing I ain't got any on the desk here, but I did some Umbara ARC Troopers.
Yeah.
Because I thought, they'd look sick. It's just paint it how you want. It scratches that little itch in you. So like,
it follows the golden rule of Star Wars, doesn't it? It seems to be inclusive for everyone, no matter what your favourite flavour is.
Yes.
You've got a little bit of everything for everyone. How long does it take you to turn just one of the figures around, would you say? Depending on what you're doing. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Okay. So I would say, let's say something like Darth Maul. Oh, God. This one was a little bish to paint. So this did take me some time, because there was a lot of back and forth going on the head. But I think I churned him out in an evening, near enough. Maybe a little bit of clean up here and there. Probably did a bit of work on the basing. So one model, it doesn't really sometimes take as long as you think, because some of it is just dry brushing, cheeky little cheat tips that you can do. But yeah.
Is that the one that Mr. Whitwer
It
for a
was.
cheeky little icon?
I was a bit like, oh, oh.
And that's a payoff worthy of its.
Oh God, he liked it.
That's a payoff in it.
Sensei noticed me.
That must be like, I spent 7 hours painting this little miniature. Yeah. Validation.
It's like, I send pictures to my parents, like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. That's nice. Then you show it to someone, it's like, oh, a thumbs up from like Sam Whitwer. Like,
but Sam Whitwer doesn't Sam Whitwer play Legion though? So like he's got that. Not only is obviously Maul his character, but he's got that appreciation for the game itself and the miniatures themselves as well, hasn't he? So
yeah, I mean, he plays the Fantasy Flight games. I'm pretty sure role-playing game. That's the thing that he's really into. Then obviously Legion and the other stuff to go with it. So yeah, it's cool to see like other people, like other stars and things who are into it as well. I mean, we touched based on Micro Galaxy Squadron, and that's a company that's doing things, small things,
Very
And
small things.
I do feel like Star Wars works in a smaller setting.
Mm.
You know, I love having action figures, but to have like vehicles such as this one here.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
I love that so much.
That's
You
really
know,
cool.
It's just so cool to like play out your own battles, your own stories, and then creating creating the train for it as well.
Wow, look at that.
And that I mean this is the stuff that takes long because I was using cardboard, paper mache, and the painting's easy of it, but it's just like simple
What?
stuff
So
like that.
is that scratch built then? That's not like
Oh
from a
yes,
kit.
no scratch built. I
What
took
the hell?
That's
cardboard.
wicked.
I took cardboard and for a night I made like 5 bits of terrain, just cutting them up and then stacking them, and then I used paper mache. Probably not using the right conventional sense, but it doesn't matter. We ran with it. We used bog roll.
Remembering your Blue Peter education there, aren't you, mate?
It is, mate. So like, I don't have any newspapers. There's plenty of Sun newspapers across the road that I could have picked up. I should have thought about that, but
Well, it's about all the Daily Mail and all that sort of stuff is useful
Exactly.
for. So
we
there you
can
go.
remember to do that in the future. So yeah, literally just built it up. Bum. That took a while because it was cutting the stuff out and it was a bit of a. There's other ways to do it quicker, but you know, it's having what you've got around you to make something, which is great.
No, but like I said, like to see that, I mean, it probably looks different to you in person seeing it, but like just showing it on the screen there, I could have swore that was like a kit or something. Because I was in Hobbycraft yesterday and I was having a look at like, I wasn't looking, I wasn't looking, but I just sort of like
It's contagious.
Like, just walked past the miniature stuff and I saw like the kits to do like terrain and bases and grasses and mountains and all that sort of stuff. And I thought, I wonder if this is the sort of thing that Dan buys to do his Legion bases. But the fact that you've done like paper mache, man, that's so good. I love that. Proper throwback.
It's like, I mean, you can use Pringle cans to build stuff. And then naturally, like I've said about 3D printing, then there's people out there, if there's something really specific you want, like a downed ATST or a gunship, someone's out there 3D printing it for you, so it's readily available. It's insane. The creative, that's what I love about it, is the creativity and like the storytelling. Like when I've got a miniature in my hand, it's like, well, what story can I tell with it? So I did Versio, Urcio. It's like I put about little lava bases.
Nice.
Then I've got Dell as well. Quickly show him off. Is it Dell or the other dudes?
That's wicked.
And that's the thing. It's like the first miniature you're ever going to paint is going to be a bit naff. But the more you work at it, the more you get muscle memory. And it's great watching YouTubers but actually doing it. You kind of figure out your own sort of techniques and stuff. And it's just... that's what I like about it. It's like, it's really satisfying. Like, I don't know if this is going to work, and then it does, and you're like, wow, I've got a new thing to add to my arsenal. So, I think the thing where my miniature painting leveled up, just to like a little side thing. So, I got the Rebel Pathfinders, and there was one miniature in that box that I was like, I'm really anxious to paint this. I'm going to leave him last. And then it's been more of a thing where like, well, I've been to Celebration, I've seen the costume, I love the costume as well, and I was like, I'm really anxious to paint this, so I just got stuck into it, and that's probably one of my favourite minis I've ever. That was like a game changer for me because it's like, oh, actually, some characters, if you put a bit of time in, if you really like it, and that's it. It's depending on you how you want to spend your time on it.
Yeah.
You can paint a bunch of stormtroopers and you can blast through them in a night. Some stuff, you sit there and think, I want to actually spend a bit of time on this to make it peng. And that's like, oof, well done, Dan.
That's amazing. It's another one of those cases as well, though, isn't it? Like, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to see some of your miniatures in person. And like I have actually, haven't I? There we go. Show and tell. Comes from both angles. There we go. I mean, this isn't a Legion miniature; it's a Micro Machines, but even so, you get an idea. Look at that. That's a Dan original.
There it is.
And what I love about about Legion and the approach that you've taken to it, Dan, especially, is it's one of those where, like I said, I've seen the miniatures that you've got in person, and the sculpts on them are amazing. Considering how small they are, the sculpts are so good. I mean, it's like with Iden Versio that you showed a minute ago. Doesn't she come with the little Seeker droid?
Oh yeah, I've got that to hand here.
That's mad.
The thing about the Seeker droid was, because I was like, oh, but I really want to have. She hasn't got a helmet on because I wanted her to be more, Iden Versio. Then I was like, oh, there we are. I can just glue her helmet onto the Seeker droid, so he's just carrying it around on the battlefield in a little lackey.
That's wicked.
But that was so simple to paint. You just paint it black, bit of a dry brush, some like lens highlighting on the eyes.
That's amazing.
It's
so cool.
I love it and there's loads of models that they do. I mean, I haven't got the full collection yet, but I'd love to.
Emphasis on that.
But there's just one thing that's just really making me worry about Legion, and that's because it was passed on to Asmodee, who are doing a lovely job of it. We've got Dark Troopers, we've got Moff Gideon, we've got things like that. But they've introduced a new game called Shatterpoint, and it's bigger models. Like, and it's like,
I think I saw something on Facebook about that. I was going to ask you about that. I thought it was something completely separate, like a different take on it or something.
Yeah, it's following more Marvel Crisis Protocol rules, which is another a game that they came up with because they acquired the rights from Fantasy Fight Games. Not to get too technical of it, so it's a bit like, oh god, what's going to happen here? So they've then brought this new game out, which I'm probably going to demo when I go to Celebration because I'd imagine they're going to take it there to have people have a go at. But I don't know. I just want Legion to keep going because I don't want to be painting Space Marines with stupid detailing on, with stupid gold detailing that you have to highlight. And I just like my Legion models because I put a little bit of paint on and it's almost done. I'm like, oh, I'm almost there. It's a Stormtrooper. Just painting the little black, undersuit and the bits there and the bits there. It's really finicky and weird, but I love how relaxing and therapeutic it is. I get in the zone. I'm like, oh, Shore Troopers. Well, I can paint it like the one from the movie, but there's this one that's completely homebrew. We didn't see him in the film, so I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to make my own squad markings for him because no one knows what squad markings to use. He's a heavy weapons guy. He's got a big gun. I'll just give him red instead of blue.
So is that weapon and everything? That's a complete sort of, like you said, scratch built homebrew.
Oh no!
Well, not scratch built, but
it's like it's a bit of artistic license on the company. So because they needed like a heavy weapons unit, then they probably had a word with Lucasfilm and said, "Oh, what kind of weapon would these guys carry?" And they were probably like, "And that." So
right, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
So by homebrew you mean Legion have put it together themselves, rather. Right. I thought what you meant by that was that you're taking the weapon from another figure or another set and then put the weapon from. Do you know what I mean?
You can do that though if you really wanted to.
Kit bash. You can kit bash.
The thing I love about Legion players as well, so they do the Snowtrooper heavy weapons kit.
Man. They just keep coming.
People did them as Galactic Marines because, like, well, we want Galactic Marines. We'll just throw that in a
Do you know what I really, really love about these is just how, like, they're miniatures, but the size of that's like a little set piece.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's like a little diorama in and of itself. And I think Adam in the chat's just pulled up a really good point, actually. JCC's just said, I want to build dioramas so bad. I've honestly been holding on to my 3 3/4 inch Star Wars primarily for that purpose. I have a boy's dream of building a big Utapau sinkhole dio someday. And that, I think, hits the nail on the head as to why I feel like so many people are tapping into Legion, because it's allowing you to world build. And when I say world build, I don't mean vintage collection world build. I mean properly world build. Do you know what I mean?
With these 6 Mandalorians.
That's it.
Legion are like, hold my beer.
That's what I mean.
It's
It's like-
really cool. They almost look like that. I can't remember exactly what they're called. It was it Star Wars Unleashed, where
Yeah.
you got just like a little box set of
Yeah.
miniature characters that were pre-posed,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you could have clones, some Imperials, Rebels, all kinds. Those little set ones. That's what it reminds me of. This
Yeah.
great.
But that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was a Hasbro product, but that was where the variety always was. There was always you know, if you didn't want to collect 3 3/4 inch figures, you can collect these instead. If you don't want to collect, I mean, Unleashed and Black Series were never running concurrently, but you know, there was always that option that if you didn't want to collect one thing, you could collect another. Whereas Hasbro don't really do that anymore. I mean, they do to an extent with like Mission Fleet.
For me, it's like
But-
Hasbro's like action figures, slightly posable action figures that aren't as posable as the others,
or props.
and or props, or
Props.
something really, really kid orientated, which is fine.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like in the middle.
No, exactly.
I don't know.
But no, that's some of the stuff you've just shown there, mate. Honestly, I'm in absolute awe, and I'm so envious as well because, like I said, I just don't have the the patience. Do you know what I mean? Like the idea of sitting down. I mean, I love what you mentioned earlier about it being therapeutic and relaxing and stuff because I'm all about that. Any adult is all about that. Do you know what I mean? Oh, there he is. Look, but I think what I love about it is the fact that, like you said, you found it so therapeutic, but then on the flip side of it, I couldn't think of anything more stressful.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
You want to hear about stress? Do you want to hear about stress? Right, this is the one thing where I will say about Legion. The one set of models that actually make me want to physically piss when I'm making them. Like, I was building these when I went around, I was back home, and I was like, I spent a full day building models. I kid you not, these models, I was swearing, I was getting glue on my hands, I
Oh,
was
God, no.
fuming. These little spindly fucks.
Beep.
Oh wow!
Now,
Oh
okay.
no.
these little fellas, around here, the models are amazing. They're so
They
easy
look
to
it.
fluff up though, because you can get the bodies mixed up and mixed around, and it's a bit of a nightmare building them because you have to glue the legs, the body, the head, the back of the head as well. Look how tiny that little thing is, and you have to glue that on.
That's what she
Freaking
said.
Serious. And once you've built them, it's like, God, I don't want to build another one of these again. But I'll gladly paint them because they're so easy. Just put a little bit of white on them, you know, a little wash, bit of a dry brush, bosh, done, easy. Building them though makes me want to vomit.
So that's the thing I actually want to ask you about. So you're saying you've got to build him. What do you mean build him? Because like, I would have just assumed. I mean, like I remember back in sort of like 2002. I remember that D'Agostini magazine thing that they did for Lord of the Rings, and they did the miniatures that came with that. And for the briefest time, I got them, and I did a little bit of miniature painting myself back in the day. Don't you know? I had a little squadron of orcs. Never been a big Lord of the Rings fan, but for some reason had that. And I remember the figures coming on. They were literally like on those like pegboard sort of things, and you used to snap them off. But all you had to do was plug them into the base. You never had to build them. So what do you mean by build the figures?
So
I'm curious.
So you know how Airfix come on sprues?
Yeah.
So like the frames?
Yeah.
That's what these come on. So some of the models will give you options. For example, this, if you want to do it in Galactic Republic, then you get the option to have the guys inside, because there are guys inside there. You can't really see them very well, but there is someone in there. Effectively, you can like have either clone troopers or Imperial pilots. So you get options, which is nice. So like not just with Captain Rex, you get alternative helmets, you get
look at that
heads. So you can always save the parts to use for later. But yeah, you have to, for the most part, with a lot of the newer models, they come on frames. Originally, they came in little baggies. They had to open up. Then they made a bit of a switch. Either way, you have to build them. Worth checking what glue to use as well. We talk about that in the video series. So yeah, you have to build them. They have to prime. They have to paint. It's. I like the building side of it because you can sit there and think, oh, you know what? I can add this on. I can do that. I can do da 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 da. It's just there's a whole creative process to it that I just love, and I'd love to get just a couple of models and not just slap them on a base, but do an actual, like we've talked about, do a diorama, because you can then take the parts and move them about and rearrange them. Just make something really cool, and I think that's the next. That's the next joy of miniature painting video that might come when I've got an idea.
I can't wait. I'm excited. I'm excited. I think that's one of the things, isn't it, that you don't get. I mean, I didn't want to bash Hasbro too much in this stream, but I think that's one of the main, especially for you, Dan. That's one of the reasons why I think Legion is so appealing, is because you don't get that, and I'll emphasize it again, that world building that everyone goes on about so much. With action figures, sure thing, you get the odd play set and you get the odd diorama piece. Like I've just picked up the vintage collection Tantive 4. I can't put it down. I love it. I've actually been playing with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But and it's amazing. Don't get me wrong. I love it, and I'm thrilled to have it. But that's not something we get enough for our collections as action figure collectors. We don't get set pieces. We don't get diorama pieces, and that's one of the things I'm going to touch on when we come to my little passion project. But it's it's one of those things, you don't get you get the visual representation in terms of the characters, but you don't get the worlds. Do you know what I mean? You walk into any Star Wars collection and there's no representation really on a big scale of the worlds and the planets and the environments. Like I said, small play sets here and there, but nothing on that scale. And that's something that I'd love to get back into that again. I mean, if ever I hope sticks and move and I end up with a bigger collection room, diorama building, I think is something that I'd really like to get back into, because I did those Tatooine dioramas back in the day and I've just got nowhere to display them. But the idea of just having like a Tatooine street or a cantina that's just populated with characters, and that's not just action figures on a shelf, but is actually scenes from the film. And I think that's what you've got with Legion, mate. And so I really do applaud you, and I'm very, very envious. I think
it's the best of both worlds. It is, because you've got the model there on its own, and then when you've got your mate round and he brings his army, it's like, let's have a mess about. Who's going against who? Who's going to lose? Definitely me. That's what you've got. You can build a table. You can build a story around it. You can rip each other. It's a laugh. It's a goof, gaff, and a laugh. That's what I love about Legion.
Love it.
It's variety as well, isn't it? Because Hasbro are just going to pump out the same popular characters, and Dan's over here painting his clones into whichever character he wants it to be, whichever Legion he wants it to be. You're not having to wait until 2024 to get your hands on something you saw yesterday.
It's adding your own personal touch to your collection as well, isn't it? Because it's something that you've crafted, you've done yourself, and you've made a decision about. And I love that. I absolutely love it. Look, where do these keep coming from?
I've got a whole table of them. I'm sorry. There's more on the shelf, but I've got.
Steve.
I've just got loads of them.
I love them. I love it. Yeah. Brilliant. Love it. Thank you. Thank you for
you guys. Before I continue, quick.
No, I love it. I love it. Thank you for indulging me, because that's one of the things that I didn't just want to get this stream together to just to talk about, to self-indulge and to talk about all our stuff. Like you said, James, before we went on air, this is going to be educational for us, because, I think there's things about my side quest that you're not particularly familiar with. I don't think any of us had any clue about Star Wars Legion. Either of us, should I say, sorry. Myself and James. But
don't ask me about the rules. Don't get me to show you the rules, because I'll forget something.
No, but it's another one of those things, isn't it? You don't necessarily have to play the game and know the rules. You can just appreciate the art and the, like you said, the creativity that's gone into it. Stop it! Where are you pulling?
As an outside viewer, though, I wouldn't necessarily look at it and think, "Oh, I want to get into that to play." I would look at that and say, "Oh, those would look great on a shelf." Like, Dan
as seen in the thumbnail.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, brilliant stuff, Dan. Really good stuff.
Thank you.
So I was gonna let you go first, James, but what we've
I'll be a
just
gentleman and
well, no, it's not that, but I want to save yours till last anyway because I feel like yours is the main event because yours is just
well, when you put it like that,
it's what everybody's going to be here for. I mean,
I'm here for it.
Clone Wars is something that everybody loves. So, we'll save that for the main course. But what we touched upon when we were talking about Legion and the world building and the set pieces and the environments and all that sort of stuff kind of brings me into my side quest. And it's not something that I necessarily set out to do with this particular project. But it's something that I found myself doing more because of it. So my whole thing, my little side quest that I'm presenting to you today in this TED Talk is Power of the Force 2. And for anyone who anyone who there we go, that's the demonetization gone.
we crossed that line.
So anyone who follows me on social knows that I am a massive product of the 1990s. Anything 90s nostalgia, especially when it pertains to Star Wars, I absolutely love. And I think that spoke for itself in our Gaming Greats live stream we did just before Christmas, because every selection I made from that was from Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2, which was a product of the 90s as well, like myself. But Power of the Force 2, for me, is essentially what got me into Star Wars. Other than the Jedi Knight games, it's the toy line that I was introduced to Star Wars toys through. It's what I began my collecting journey with. I was born after the original trilogy, and I was born during the dark times, where like Bendham's and all that sort of stuff was on the shelves. And I didn't really get into Star Wars until about sort of 95, 96, which was at the dawn of the Power of the Force 2 line coming out and hitting shelves and Star Wars becoming cool again. And it's just a massive kick of nostalgia for me, the Power of the Force line. And like I said, I don't know whether it was necessarily the Power of the Force that got me into Star Wars, but it certainly helped. I remember my first two figures were Darth Vader and Prince Shizo from the Shadows of the Empire, and one of the comic book packs that they released back then. And it was just sort of like a downward spiral from there. I didn't really know who these... I can't remember whether I'd seen the films before I bought the figures or whether that came after. But I remember getting these figures, I remember seeing them in Woolworths in Devon and thinking, God, these look amazing. I'm going to buy these or ask my parents to buy them, whatever. And I got them. Like I said, didn't have a massive amount of familiarity with the characters, but it just started something, clearly. And that's where we are today. But Power of the Force has always been something that's been at the back of my mind. And I think I've tapped into it a little bit more since I moved away from my parents' house, because when I had my collection on display in my old room, I was blissfully unaware of protective cases and all that sort of stuff. And so when it came time to pack up my collection and unpack it some years later, I didn't quite realise how many of my carded figures in particular had become damaged by sort of sunlight and dust and all that sort of stuff. And so the majority of my carded collection, which did consist of Power of the Force 2 and 30th anniversary, all that sort of stuff, it went to ruin because you couldn't display it because the bubbles were yellowed, the cards were dinted, dust had ingrained itself into the plastic and just ruined them. So I moved them all on. But then when I found myself putting together the room that I've got now, I was like, my examples of Star Wars packaging, which is something that I'm really passionate about as well. My examples of Star Wars packaging were dwindling, and I only really had like 2 or 3 examples, and most of it was all vintage collection. And like we've said in previous streams and in previous videos, at this point, I love vintage collection, don't get me wrong, but I'm a little bit bored of it. It's too uniform for me. The black and silver is fine. I'm not slagging it off, but we just don't see that variety of packaging anymore. That, I loved it when back in the day, each film had its own packaging design, each TV series would have had its own line of toys, and we just don't get that anymore.
It's identity, isn't it?
That's it, yeah. And that's one of the things that I found myself tapping into, especially Power of the Force 2 a lot more, is because not only does it have those nostalgic memories, but it's varied in terms of the packaging. I mean, just for, as an example, and this is one of my grails that I acquired recently, so I'm absolutely buzzing about this, but I did get a Power of the Force Boba Fett. I'm sorry about the glare. But the packaging, I mean, I'm not one of these Power of the Force 2 collectors. That's you, Dan, not me.
Just wondering what's going on there.
I'm not one of these Power of the Force 2 collectors that goes really hard over the different cards, because that's a whole other animal in and of itself. You've got green cards, you've got red cards, you've got tri-logo cards, you've got Spanish cards, you've got Shadows of the Empire cards, you've got holographic sticker cards. It's such a rabbit hole, and I haven't got time for it. I haven't got the time, I haven't got the money, I haven't got the space. I don't want it. But just to have these again, like I said, for this to be the line that essentially introduced me to Star Wars collecting, and this is a figure that I did have back when I was a kid. I remember having this one and opening it up, and I remember taking it to school one day, and I lost it in the playground. And thankfully, I got it back. I don't know how, but I got it back.
Rescued from the sands of Tatooine.
That's it. Pretty sure he was in a puddle somewhere, but I managed to get him back, and since then it's just been like, okay, this is a figure that I need to get back in the collection. But it's not just the figure. Like I said, it's the memories that are attached to those cards as well. I mean, sorry about the glare, but like that giant CGI Darth Vader helmet, that classic metallic Star Wars logo. And what I really love about these as well is that they were very educational. I think I can put a lot of my vocabulary knowledge down to reading the backs of these cards when I was a kid, because I learned so many words like classification, didn't know what that meant, affiliation, didn't know what that meant, freelance, didn't know what that meant. And you could also learn different languages from these cards as well. So, it was fun and educational. But like I said, just in terms of like the nostalgia, it's just there. Do you know what I mean? And it's bright, it's vivid, there's color, there's images of the character, there's brand identity for the Star Wars line. It's just all there. Do you know what I mean? And it's just something that, I mean, I've got a number of different Power of the Force 2 figures carded in the collection. I got really lucky actually, because going back and picking up Power of the Force 2 figures is something that I've really, really started to do since the pandemic. Because when lockdown hit and we were all like, right, you can't go outside, all you can do is go to work, you can't go to shops, you can't go and buy anything. So I was like, all right, then all the toy stores are shut. What am I going to do? I'm going to turn to eBay. I'm going to turn to the online retailers. And I just, like I said, I found myself going down this wormhole of, I wonder if I can find any of those figures that I had as a kid on eBay and finding. And I got really lucky because I managed to buy a full set of Power of the Force figures that were all mint on card. Honestly, I mean, it's probably not going to do much justice showing them on camera, but these figures that I've got from the Power of the Force line, I've done it again. It's because we look so alike, Dan. I can't stress enough just how good condition these figures are in. They literally look like they were released yesterday. And like I said, it just hits me so hard in the nostalgia. I remember, this is another one that's got a story behind it. My grandma picked this up for me back in the 90s when I was a kid. I was staying with her for the 6-week holidays, and we'd gone into town, and anybody who's in the UK who's watching who remembers the store Beatties, which was sort of, it was weird. I think it was mainly a model shop, but they sold other toys and collectibles as well. And I remember going in there all the time and finding Power of the Force figures. And this is one I remember getting from there. And I'll never forget, I had this thing when I was a kid of, my parents were very against me buying multiples of the same character. So when I'd already got the farm boy look at this point. So when I turned up from my grandma's back home with this, and my mum and dad were like, what have you got today then? I was like, oh, Nanan bought me this Power of the Force Luke Skywalker figure. They'd be like, haven't you got a Luke Skywalker? And I'd be like, yes, but not in this outfit. And it's just the little stories and the little memories that are attached to this line
Steve, that never stops, mate. When I got my Hot Toys Mandalorian Luke the other day, my mum was like, "Haven't you already got one of them?" Yep,
My mum
not
does
this
it.
one with it.
My mum does it all the time. Like I'll I'll go and see her and stuff, and I'll be like, "Oh, I've just picked this up on my way here," and she'll be like, "Haven't you got one of those?" Picked up a Sith Trooper. She's like, "I'm sure you've got a Red Stormtrooper in your collection somewhere." I'm like, "I didn't, but I do now." And it's not the same Red Stormtrooper. It's actually Captain Cardinal. They're two different characters. The struggle is real,
Yeah.
but it's just like I said, the little memories that are attached to it through that. And like I said, the cards themselves are just so full of nostalgia and joy, and they're just fun to look at. I'm really glad, speaking of current Hasbro product and how much it turns us off, but I'm really, really glad that they tapped into the power of the Force for the Lucasfilm 50th anniversary. I'm gutted that they didn't do some of the characters that I wanted to see. Like, I love the retro collection as well. I love what they're doing with that. No real emotions attached to it, but in terms of what they're doing with it, I love the idea. I love the concept. And I wish they'd tapped into the Power of the Force stuff a little bit heavier with the Black Series stuff, because I picked up the Luke, but like, could you imagine if they'd have done a Rebel Fleet Trooper on a Power of the Force 2 card, or a Sand Trooper, or given us characters that we haven't got yet that were synonymous with the Power of the Force line, like Long Snoot, Garrinden? That's a figure that we haven't had in the Black Series yet that got its debut figure in the Power of the Force 2 line, and it would have been a perfect opportunity to release for that anniversary, and I just don't think they went in enough on it.
Strangely, that was the only line during Lucasfilm's 50th that didn't get any new figures, really.
Yeah, it's sad. One of my favourites as well, again, memories attached to it, is this one. Absolutely love that figure. I remember getting this from Toys R Us back in the day. And I've done it again!
And just change the back of your television to a Star Wars card.
What it is, it's because I'm right-handed, so automatically my hand just wants to go to the right of the screen.
It's a strong hand.
But I remember getting this figure and thinking, God, this is really good value for money. I'm getting 2 figures with this one, because it comes with carbonite block, it comes with the figure, and it's like, it's just, if this was released today, that'd be 30 quid. Do you know what I mean? Because it comes with a figure-sized accessory. But back in the day, this would be $5.99, the same as, probably even less, the same as all the other figures. Do you know what I mean? And it's just, but it's like, it's again those memories and those stories that are attached to it. Like, I remember having this figure and it being the only Han Solo that I had for a while, and I'd be like, well, I need to get another Han Solo at some point because he hasn't got his waist jacket or his belt on. It's not accurate to how he appears in. I learned very young about screen accuracy. And I was like, I haven't got a figure that's representative of his appearance in episode 4. So it's just little things like that I remember about this line. And a big thing that I've got to thank for that is, once I really started getting into Star Wars collecting, was I remember my parents for Christmas, maybe 98, I think it was, they bought me this book. And again, for anyone who follows me on social channels, then you know that whenever I reference Power of the Force 2, I always reference this book, because this is essentially my action figure Bible, and still is, to be fair, to this day, because I still find myself every now and again digging this book out and flicking through it and looking at all the figures that I either had when I was a kid and parted ways with, or looking at the toys that I never got but always wanted. And now I'm going back through it and I'm ticking the things off, and I'm looking at other toy lines, because it doesn't just cover the Power of the Force 2. It covers the vehicles. It also covered, I think, which paints this way, I think. It also covered some of the other lines that Kenner were putting out at the time. So like the multi-packs. Hold on, show and tell with Steve. What else did we have? They gave us a look at as well. Once I can find it, bear with me. Because it touches on the vintage stuff as well. So I imagine that this is sort of a Bible for vintage collectors too. But it touched on these bad boys that I've just started collecting again. The Collector Series 12-inch stuff. And so it's one of those amazing reference books that you can just go back and be like, oh, I really want that, or I always wanted that but never got it. This is what I'm going to look through. And like I said, just to have a look at some of those figures, the book itself is a memory, but then to see the figures on the pages that, like I said, I either had when I was a kid and don't have anymore, it's just a massive wave of nostalgia. And like I said, it really does bring back so many happy memories. And that's one of the things I actually want to touch on when we get into the loose figure stuff. But before I do that, I just wanted to expand on what we were talking about with Dan's Legion talk and the world building aspect of Star Wars. Because, like I said, we do get that with 3 3/4 inch to a degree. We get playsets, we get environment pieces. I can't remember whether any place. Yes, there were playsets. Because there were playsets in the vintage line. You had the Star Destroyer and all that sort of stuff, didn't you? But I think Power of the Force really tapped into playsets and environment pieces really nicely, and this is one of them. This is another one that I wanted when I was a kid, but never got. But I just love the playability of this one because it's just so cool. And what I like about it is that even though it's not a full-blown diorama like we were talking about with Dan's Legion stuff, it's just a small section of a really iconic scene that you can put on your shelf and you've got a representation of. And it's done really well. It's done really, because when I got this, I was like, oh, this is going to be made of really cheap plastic. It's going to be really flimsy. It's going to be really disappointing. But it wasn't. It was really, really well put together. And it's really fun to look at and it's really fun to play with. And here's one I made earlier.
Oh, don't, because you made me want it. Oh,
it's so good. It's just so good. I mean, this is just a small example of what the Power of the Force 2 offered, but do you know what I mean? Like, just as a small, like I said, a small section of a really iconic scene on display in a collection, they don't come much better than this. And I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't even be mad if Hasbro repainted this, gave it some new stickers, and released it in the vintage collection. Because I think, personally, I mean, yeah, you've got this giant rocket on the top that fires missiles, but what toy in the 90s didn't, you know?
Yeah.
It's part of the fun, really, isn't it?
Exactly. It's a gimmick. And
shoot them at your parents, shoot them at your pets, lose them in the carpet.
That's it. But like I said, yeah, it's a bit gimmicky, and I suppose there are adjustments that could be made, but it stood the test of time. You know, you've got the little sliding door for the detention block. You've got the trash chute, pegs for the figures, with figures that have got peg holes in their feet that are deep enough to put on stands, which is another thing that really frigging winds me up with vintage at the minute.
Multifaceted.
It is. It's really bloody good.
Only is it fun for kids, it's also great for collectors wanting to display things.
There you go.
One thing that I'd like to do if I could get my hands on it is if I could get a certain character with some stormtroopers and recreate Dark Forces 1.
Would that certain character happen to be a Mr. Kyle Katarn?
Oh, Katarn, please. Yeah, I'd need to get a couple of stormtroopers inhabited in that, have him there, and then pull back the sliding door, and who's there? It's Crix Medine hiding in his little cell. To recreate that part in the game, we have to free him. Yeah.
But this is another example of like tapping into those memories though, because I remember getting this figure, and just can't, like, because obviously forums and online reveals and all that stuff weren't a thing, at least for kids back in the 90s. And so I had no idea about what figures Hasbro were going to make and what they were going to release. So can you imagine, like, for someone who was as obsessed with Jedi Knight and Dark Forces as I was, walking into Toys R Us one day and going, holy crap, that's a Kyle Katarn figure. I didn't know that had been made. I have to buy it. And it's just one of those things, like, it was just that spontaneity of, I mean, Power of the Force tapped into some really weird stuff. I mean, they went into Expanded Universe. They went into concept art. They went into some really out there stuff, and I love it for it. And that's one of the main reasons why I love going back and collecting it so much, because of just the variety of it all. It's just so good. But yeah, like I said, the play sets especially taps into the world building aspect. One of the things that I always wanted when I was younger was the Endor bunker play set. that came with like the tree trunks at the side of it, and it came with the catapult and or like a thing to fling rocks and all that sort of thing. And it was that like collector aspect because it displayed really well. But then also you got the playability in there for the kids, and I love the gimmicks. I love the gimmicks, and they don't come much more gimmicky than Boba Fett with a giant torpedo. Look at the state of it. I mean, I've got him on my shelf, and I have to display it with the cannon upright like that because he just doesn't stand up. He just topples over. But oh man, it was never seen on screen. It's so goddamn ridiculous, but it's so fun. It's so fun. And that's one of the things that I think is really missing from Star Wars toys. And I'm going to emphasize on that. Vintage Collection and Black Series, yeah, at this point, they are collector's items. Let's not colour it any other way. I miss this aspect of Star Wars toys. And this is something that I think died a death with Force Awakens and Rogue One. Firing missiles, chunky blasters.
Yep.
We just don't get it anymore. And I know we slagged it off. You know, I did it I remember when, for example, when the Clone Wars line started, I remember seeing Anakin with that wrist gauntlet thing and thinking, that's stupid, don't want it. But now I have a more mature palate. I can appreciate things like this. You know what I mean?
I think there's some hidden sort of feelings as well, Steve, because for me, it's how swole these figures are.
Yes!
I just absolutely love how jacked they are. And you're to blame for this. You get. This is what I'm going to be looking for at Celebration. Just these. Look at this Chad. Look
there
at
he
him.
is. That's another favourite of mine as well. I love that figure.
He's not messing around. He's not missed a day at the gym. He's just a picture of Elf that we should all aspire to. Let's be honest. Look at that Chad.
So good. But you know what I mean? Like I said, it's just a ridiculous line full of ridiculous figures and ridiculous ideas. But then as the line progressed, it's thanks to sort of the power of the Force that we have the screen accurate representations of characters that we get now. For example, this guy is still to this day my favorite Darth Vader figure. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care whether anyone says, well, the Dark Times Darth Vader from Obi-Wan Kenobi is the best Vader we've had. I've got it now, and it's an amazing figure. I do not doubt that one bit, and I don't question it one bit. It's an amazing example of what a Darth Vader figure should be. But for me, this one, it's perfect. It's slightly less chunky than his original release, so he's not as buff as that first one that came out. But this was when they started playing with a little bit more articulation. So you'd got a swivel arm. Ooh. But the main event for this one, like I said, the power of the Force, it wasn't just it's not just nostalgic. It's not just a fun toy line, but it's a history maker as well. Because this figure is the first ever Darth Vader figure to feature a removable helmet. And I would go as far as to say that Hasbro haven't come close to replicating a Sebastian Shaw head sculpt that's as good as that one. The level of detail that is in the scars on his head, I mean, it doesn't show up very well on camera because it's a bit out of focus, but the level of detail in his head, you know, the neck brace, all that sort of stuff, it's unparalleled, even by today's standards, if you ask me. And I think the Power of the Force 2 line did such an amazing job of capturing detail. Not always the most screen accurate, I'll admit, but the detail that went into these figures, even for, background characters, Ishi Tib, you know, from the Rebel briefing scene, Poot Snitkin, for example, from Jabba's Palace. The detail was off the chart, and I think it's something that, even by today's standards, is lacking on Hasbro's part. They do put in the work, but there's just something else about about the power of the Force. And I think Adam's just nailed it there as well. He's put a lot of people always pick the best as their favorite, but that's not always the case. Definitely not. It's definitely not. The Dark Times Darth Vader figure from Kenobi is nowhere near my favorite Darth Vader figure. You know,
I think the cape's dreadful on that. Everybody gushes over that, and I had it for maybe a month or so. I went through a phase of just like, maybe I need all the vintage collection things because it's cool now. Bugger it off. I would rather have a hard shell cape like the one you've just shown than something that looks like what Batman should be wearing. Because they don't put any effort into the soft goods. They cut half a circle of fabric and put it around the figures now.
That's my only gripe with that one as well. I mean, the figure itself is amazing. Like, sculpt-wise, it looks fantastic, but that cape is way too big.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking I'm probably going to swap it. I'm going to pop his head off and swap it out with something else. Luke's just popped a comment in the chat. For a 90s Vader, the likeness to Sebastian Shaw is really good. I saw it sometime last year, if memory serves. However, I think the Legacy and Vintage Collection Vader head is also good. It is. The Legacy Collection one was really good, the one that came with the 3-piece helmet. But for me, I don't know. It's just that one. I think as well, he has the eyebrows. I'm sure he has eyebrows. He does have eyebrows. We can confirm. We can confirm we have eyebrows. But that, again, is one of the things, like I said, it doesn't show up on camera very well. But the bags under the eyes, even like the texture of his skin, like he's got wrinkles in his forehead. It genuinely feels like a scaled down Sebastian Shaw. And like I said, the detail that's gone into his scars, they are like legitimately gruesome. And I just love it. It's just such a good figure. Even comes with a removable hand as well. You know, it was just, like I said, Power of the Force, history makers. They did such an amazing job with this line. And one of the and going back to sort of weird choices, bloody Anakin Skywalker, mate. and not Hayden Christensen either. What a weird figure to be released. I mean, we were talking about this one before we went live. This is Sebastian Shaw as Anakin Skywalker from technically the end of Return of the Jedi. But he's not a ghost. He comes with Obi-Wan's lightsaber. It's bizarre that they made this. Do you know what I mean? I love it because it's weird, and that's one of the reasons why I picked it up, because it's just so odd and out there.
I mean, it's the face for me.
Yeah, it's just like, happy to be here.
That's it.
But it's just...
Is it the same body as what the Obi-Wan Kenobi figure would have been in that line? Or
it's
is
not
it a brand new sculpt?
No, it's...
You wouldn't get that from Hasbro these days, would you? That's great.
This is the thing. I don't know whether it's brand new, because like Luke's mentioned in the comments, while we're on the subject of Power of the Force, he was lucky enough to find the Jedi Spirits 3-pack. I'm not sure whether it's the same figure as that, because I know that I can't remember whether the mail away Obi-Wan Force Ghost they did was repacked for the Spirits set, and whether or not this is just a solid colour version of the Force Ghost from that 3-pack. But if I remember rightly, those figures aren't articulated. I don't have it, so I don't know. But as far as I'm aware, it's never been used for Obi-Wan, put it that way. So to me, it's all new. And like I say, it's articulated, and you've got the robes and stuff. But like I said, just a weird choice. And again, in some respects, it's a history maker, because it's the first live sort of Anakin figure. I know we got a Force Ghost Anakin in the vintage line in the 80s, but we didn't get a figure of what Anakin would have appeared like as a Jedi.
Like that again.
That's what I mean. I mean, you do get it to a degree, but it'd be a repacked, like you said, James. It'd be a repacked Obi-Wan with a new head nowadays.
Would they do the Sebastian Shaw head though, or would it? You know, I would say it'd be a Hayden Christensen head these days because of whatever parameters Lucasfilm operate
But
around.
that's one of the reasons why I love this figure so much, because it's not. This was released before Hayden Christensen was cast. This was released before the Phantom Menace. You know, this is a figure that it came with one of those little flashback cards, and you pulled the little tab on it, and it had changed from a picture of Sebastian Shaw as Anakin at the end of Return of the Jedi to Jake Lloyd as Anakin in Phantom Menace, and it was like a little preview of what was going to come in the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I vaguely remember seeing them.
But again, like, we had no idea what Anakin as an adult was going to look like in this sort of era. So this was our first sort of glimpse into that. It was, in a lot of ways, it's the first prequel figure before the prequels were in fact canon. So, like I said, history made in the Power of the Force 2 line, and despite all the gimmicks and the steroids and all that sort of stuff that are associated with Power of the Force, they did some incredible stuff. And like we were talking about in terms of like memories and stuff that are attached to carded figures, I'm going to wrap things up with my little talk now, and I'm going to touch on a figure that Dan was actually with me for when I purchased.
Share on this one as well.
We can. And this figure, to me, just encapsulates everything about the Power of the Force 2 that means so much to me. Because for those who don't know, my dad's no longer with us. He passed away 9 years ago, and as a kid, like me and him, we would, like we were talking about dioramas earlier, those Tatooine dioramas that I put together, we did those together. We got the polystyrene, we sat in the garden painting it, we did all this sort of stuff, and eventually when we made the Cantina diorama that we did, I was like, Dad, we've done the Cantina, but I don't have a Cantina band to play in it. It even had a little stage in the corner, and I was like, I haven't got a Cantina band. So he's like, right, leave it with me. We'll sort this out. And this is during a time when I was about 15, 16. I didn't have an eBay account. I didn't really know what eBay was. Wasn't spending money online like I am now, that's for sure. And so I remember I've got vivid memories of my dad sitting in our computer room at their house, scrolling eBay, looking for Cantina band figures, and in particular the 30th anniversary collection tin set that they did, which was hard to come by even in 2007, even harder to come by now. And even the Power of the Force 2 mail-away figure was really difficult to source back then. And I just remember, he was like, don't you worry, we're not going to rest until we've got a Cantina band for this Cantina diorama. And, fast forward to 2014 and he passed away, and that never became a realization, unfortunately. He never got to see the Cantina finished, which makes me a little bit sad. But when me and Dan visited Leicester Vintage Toys, was it last year we went, or was it this year?
Last year.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was last April. There's a video up on the channel if you want to check it out. I'll put a little card in post. But we went there, and I don't think we really had any sort of idea what we were going to pick up or what we wanted to pick up. It was purely just going to be spontaneity and impulse, wasn't it? And I think I went with the sole purpose of picking up, Power of the Force 2,
which you did.
Which I did in droves. But like I said, I didn't really know what I was going for. I was just hoping that I was going to go find something cool, get it, and add it to the collection, and I did. But then I think we left, didn't we?
What happened was, do you want me to have my bit here?
Yeah, go on.
This idiot thought, they've got a Razor Crest, a Hasbro Pulse Razor Crest. Now, I did have the funding for this. Let it be known that I did have the funding that they were asking for it. So he said, right, we're going to go and have a think about it.
I think we, sorry to interject, but I think we even talked about splitting the cost, didn't we? And we
there
were
was
like,
a little bit of that.
we were like, we'll split the cost and we'll share custody.
we were walking to Film Planet, and we were just thinking, you were like, you should get it, Dan. Just get it. I'm going to film it. It's going to look incredible. Do it for the views. Do it for the content. Do it for the content, Dan. Do it. And I'm like, oh, but I do have the money for it. And my mental health isn't like all the way up there at the minute. I might just, just go for it. Who needs a house,
No one needs to eat.
So that's it. And we were walking. I was genuinely contemplating it, and then I thought, no, don't be an idiot. Just go for the Ahsoka clone trooper that's in that Hero Galaxy Adventures, weren't it?
Yeah.
There we go, that little fella. Yeah. So yeah, we go back, and we start having a browse again.
Just in case we'd missed anything.
Yeah. And
Which
you were like, oh, what's in that box? What's in the box?
Oh, he's even brought the
box. What's in the box? And I'm like, and you're stood there, and you go to find someone. I do the quick thing going on eBay. I'm like, oh, it's this. And he's like, yo, what? You were like a little crack addict, you were. Oh, get over it. Get him. Can you someone open up the cabinet? And as you're going off to get him, I'm like, oh, there's another one here. So he pulls them out, he shows them us off, and they're both minty fresh, near enough, weren't they?
Mm-hmm. They were still like all bagged up and everything. They were
all accessories. We've even got on my channel. I think I've got the clip where I filmed the unveiling of the figgy. And would you like to do the honours? Because I feel like this is your.
I feel like we should. I don't think we can get demonetized by like humming the theme, can we? So I've done it again. I've put you on. I just love your face, Dan.
The camera loves me.
There we go. All together now. Come on. Boom. There he is. And I mean, it's safe to say, Dan, I think you saw firsthand, really, like, just how much finding this meant to me. Like, it's easily, like, other than all the memories and the stories that I've got that are attached to collecting Power of the Force 2 back in the day. There's yours as well, look. For variety, he's got his clue horn. Mine's got my Omnibox.
Fact it up.
It's one of, like I said, other than collecting these figures back in the day as a kid, having them when they were out on shelves, finding this with you when we went to Leicester is genuinely, legitimately one of my favourite collecting stories.
Yeah,
it's mine. Because, like I said, I mean, I can't stress enough how much I love our toy hunts and our toy runs and all that sort of stuff. And when we get together, it's always creamy.
Creamy content.
But and I love that. But like I said, the sentiment that's attached to this one, it was like one of those moments. It was like, I did it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I finally got it. And I mean, even like I said, we were doing a little bit of Hasbro bashing, and we were slagging it off to an extent. But that was the first Cantina Band member that I've ever owned in any scale. I got that before I got the Black Series one, before the Vintage Collection one, before the 12-inch Collect Series one. It was just like, I can't believe I finally found one, and I've got one, even though it was only one, and it wasn't a full band. I've got that figure that me and my dad so extensively hunted for and never found. So to actually find it was, it like I said, genuinely my favourite collecting story ever. But then fast forward a year later, and the Vintage Collection released Figuring Dan, and Star Action Figures came to the rescue with their insane sale, and then affording me the opportunity to pick up multiples of what I consider to be one of the best 3 3/4-inch figures ever made. It all just came sort of full circle for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, it started with that, and then now I've not got a full band, and I'm probably not going to invest in that that multi-pack that they've done on Hasbro Pulse, because I'm not paying £100 for a couple of extra new instruments. I'm happy with the ones I've got. But to get these so cheap and to get finally 4 of them in the collection, this is what I was saying about really wanting to get that diorama out and get it displayed, because I want to finish the story. Do you know what I mean? I want to get that cantina out. I want to populate it, and I need the band to play. I need the band to play because it means it means a lot to me. So
it's a lovely story, mate.
So there we go. That concludes my Power of the Force 2 TED Talk. Sorry for getting all mushy and sentimental, but
Quite sweet.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's like, well, you said it in the video that you did when we went to Leicester, Dan. I think at the end you said about that's what collecting is all about at the end of the day, isn't it? It's what it means to you as an individual, and it's what it means, you know, sentimentally. And it's not just, a lot of people look at it and think, God, you spent a lot of money on a lot of plastic.
Yeah, that's the classic thing you hear. You spent a lot of money on that. Spent a lot of time on that. I'm like, yeah.
But it means something.
Yeah.
For the most part, I mean, like that's what I've tried to do anyway. At least going forward, and with these side quests as well. It's not just a case of just picking up the latest merch and being that person, but it's about curating a collection that, to a point where every item has a story to it, you know? And that's one of the things I think you two especially, I mean, James especially, with it being your first one, that's something that you're going to find at Celebration, is that when you go, you're not just going to buy action figures, you're going to end up buying something else that you didn't think you were going to buy. And then that item will then have a story to it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And that for me is everything about what collecting is. And there we go. That's mine. So before we forget, I almost forgot. I almost forgot. So we'll wrap up. I did, didn't I? I'm really sorry. I went to a ramble. So yeah, it's going to sound a little bit awkward with the commentary over it now because I've already given the stories. But like we did with Dan, we saw his collection of Legion. To wrap up this, ignore the commentary because it's all in the past now. But this is my collection. As it stands, of Power of the Force 2 figures.
Okay guys, so here is my small but mighty collection of Power of the Force 2 figures. This includes some of my favourite examples of the characters that I've picked up in recent months and over the years since my Star Wars collection started. My Power of the Force 2 collection does extend to other areas of the room and features playsets and vehicles and all that sort of stuff, and throughout this stream I'll be sure to share those with you, as well as some of the stories behind them.
But I've already done that, so there we go. But like I said, playsets we've covered, figures Weird and Wonderful we've touched on, and yeah, it's a line that I will always love, always holds a very special place in my heart. Figures, specific figures always will mean a lot to me, and yeah, it is my favorite Star Wars line of all time. And Leathery Man has just dropped a comment while that video was playing, and I can't believe I can't actually believe what he's written, because this is insane.
No, actually, that is insane. I know what's coming.
So Leathery Man says, I found a 1/18 scale set of Kiss figures, and they were my Cantina band, for better or worse. I didn't have a full set of Kiss figures that served as my Cantina band, but my dad's favourite band was Kiss. And he had, from Beatties, which I touched on earlier, from Beatties, I remember going in with him, and he bought probably the same one. I think it was from the Psycho Circus line. Correct me if I'm wrong, Leathery Man, I might be, but it was the Psycho Circus line of Kiss figures by McFarlane, I think, that did them. Same guys who did the Spawn figures. And it was a Paul Stanley, 1/18 scale Paul Stanley, that came with Skittles and a weird dog dressed as a clown and a sword. And it was just so ridiculous. And that, again, it's not Star Wars, but it just taps into the ridiculousness that was the 1990s. Bring it back. I know that Kiss weren't 90s, aren't typically associated with the 90s, but the fact that, oh man, just bring it back. I want that crazy, insane era back. I remember. I remember. But thank you for that, Leathery Man. That's really, really cool that you pointed that out, and the fact that everything is just so many stories are all intertwining in this stream. I love it. I love it so much.
I think this is where the main stories are going to intertwine.
This is it.
We all
I was just
going to
say, the stories aren't stopping anytime soon.
No, we've all got a story with this one.
Yeah. I don't know where to start, really. There's a fair bit to touch on.
You've got a challenge, mate. You've got a challenge.
The bar's been set, definitely. When I was growing up, just to apply context to the story, when I first got into, I knew about Star Wars, but it was 2005, just before Revenge of the Sith came out, that I properly, watched the films, got into it, and it was all just, I was at school one day and there was this kid, he was getting picked on because he liked Star Wars, and there was about 3 guys saying, Ryan likes Star Wars, so I just turned around and said, so what? So do I. Star Wars is good. Not knowing half an inch about it, just for the sake of putting the conversation to bed.
Kudos, mate. I think that deserves an applause in itself. That's amazing. Well done.
It's got relevance. Fast forward so many years later, neck deep in Star Wars, 30th anniversary collection, everything good. But prequel trilogies ended. Where does Star Wars lie? And then one day, my mum tells me that in the Daily Mirror there was this article about a new animated movie coming out called The Clone Wars, and I'm like, oh, but they've already done The Clone Wars, What? Oh, I've already watched that. Never mind. And then the madness began, I suppose. Again, like you said, Steve, in the 90s, there was no internet, and there most definitely was in 2008. Yeah. But for me, I wasn't sort of savvy to the different websites that you could go on. Where you weren't
tuned into the Sith Lord 229 channel, were you, mate?
I was tuned into the Sith Lord 229 channel. I was. I fondly remember watching that Midnight Madness video. Starting there, I suppose. So it was about 2 weeks before whatever that date was when all the figures went on the shelves.
July 26, 2008.
He remembers.
He knows his history. And I was in Llandudno on a day out with me mum and my granddad. And I went into Woolworths. And there were all these new Star Wars figures on the shelf. White and blue packaging. What are these? This must be that Clone Wars thing that I was hearing all about. Oh, is this real? I want Anakin. As a kid, Anakin, favourite character. Got to have that one. Got enough pocket money for it. Wicked. Go to the checkout. Oh, it's not scanning. This isn't. To the more educated of us now, we know that was... They couldn't break the street data. It wasn't registering in the system. But 11, 12-year-old James, that was the end of the world. That was his day ruined. That was, when am I ever going to get this again?
Yeah. We still get that feeling now. It's fine.
And then that Midnight Madness rolled around, and some lovely figures like these.
There he is.
Yeah, massive glare. Let's see.
That packaging. Absolutely superb
that's
stuff.
What we need. That's what we're missing these days.
It's just iconic, everything about it. Seeing that on store shelves was just everything, man. And I remember going and seeing the Clone Wars film with my dad shortly after it come out, and that was great. I remember it getting a lot of hate at the time, and
it did. Yeah,
I bloody loved it. I distinctively remember sometime before, when trailers were coming out, they put the first 6 minutes of the film on StarWars.com. And it was just the opening of the Battle of Crystalsis. And when I was a kid, I must have, whatever figures I had at the time before the new ones came out, I must have reenacted that on the carpet, countless times. So safe to say, the Clone Wars line means a lot to me, because when all this happened and when all this came out, I was just going up into high school. And to sort of echo in the defense of that kid many years ago, I used to get bullied nonstop. Used to get the shit ripped out of me for everything. I looked, the size that I was, because I like Star Wars. In fact, it got to me that much that to a point, I used to say, no, bugger off, I don't like Star Wars. Leave me alone. Don't know anything about that. And there was a teacher that I had at the time, and he said, oh, I went through this, one day you'll kick yourself for denying that. And I do, but every day after, numerous times getting picked on and bullied, I'd go home, get on whatever computer we had at the time, whatever dodgy website you could find, because Cartoon Network did a piss poor job of broadcasting Clone Wars episodes in the UK. And that's it. I'd watch the Clone Wars. I'd play with my figures. And that was sort of the first touch of escapism that I probably had growing up. It soon developed that it was no longer toys to play with. It was figures to put on a shelf to collect all the different versions of. God knows how many shops my mum used to walk to for try and get me ones I couldn't find. And I've got a bunch of different ones here, like the ones that I get carded, because there's so many and because they're so expensive to get. The ones I try and focus on for the carded collection are ones that have actually got, like you, Steve, stories to them. And I could not find this guy anywhere.
Echo was a nightmare. I remember that specifically.
Did you guys have a macro back in the day?
Yeah, we've still got one.
Macro?
Yeah,
Macro.
it's off just off Parkway, Dan.
I ain't never heard of that, boy. I've never heard of that.
It's a giant like wholesale warehouse sort of thing. But you've got, it's like a bit like Costco. Imagine Costco. It's like that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, walked into Macro one day. There he was on the shelf. I'm assuming whatever a fresh case looked like back then. Lots of them on the shelf. And
I remember finding that wave in Asda, and just picking a lot up.
I think I found whatever the remains were in an Asda one time, because that's when I got the commando droid, and I was gutted. I was like, oh, Echo was here and I bloody missed it, I've got Everybody Loves a bit of Denard.
That was one under my Christmas tree.
Now, this one's got a funny story to it as well, because a certain Mr. Sith Lord 229 at the time uploaded a video with one of his pals from America getting a load of these and sending them to him. And apparently, at the time, this wave was cancelled in the UK. And I'll tell you, that wasn't good news, because, when you've got new episodes of the Clone Wars coming out every week, and you see new clones like this, you're like, gotta make a figure of that one, haven't they?
Yeah. That was a big thing, wasn't it, during the Clone Wars thing? It was like every new clone that got introduced, I need a clone of that. That was when we wanted repaints, and Hasbro wouldn't give them to us. Yeah. And now we don't want repaints, and they're just throwing them at us.
They're just giving us the wrong ones anyway, because they don't know. I went into Toys R Us just one day. I remember it like it was yesterday, Saturday afternoon, busy as fuck. Couldn't get off the car park for nothing. Walks into a Toys R Us that's hanging off the shelf, and I'm like, hey, I saw on YouTube that these weren't coming out over here. I need that.
That guy's a liar.
Now, again, I suppose at the time, you think nothing of it, you take it all for granted, but like you've said about your Power of the Force figures, it's why these figures mean so much to us, because they've actually got gravity to them.
Yeah.
You know, you can go into any shop these days and buy a vintage collection or a Black Series figure, and you know there are however many of them produced. Anybody and their auntie can go and buy one of them for all they know.
Yeah.
But the story is, all they've done is walk into a shop and buy it, and to have something like that, you know, I'm kind of lost for words in the way that because it means that much. And because I've got such sort of, I don't know, like, I want not traumatized memories, but you know,
I know what you mean.
Crap memories of school, but then the uplifting side of all these Star Wars figures and everything else that followed. I didn't have this one as a kid. I wish I did. There was actually a lot that I missed as a kid because, again, it's like pocket money days. And distribution was crap.
Yeah, it was. It was really
didn't know about Star Action figures or in-demand toys. Found Dan's channel through a video of the NEC memorabilia back when that was going.
That was literally where I got most of my Clone Wars figures from, because living in the sticks in Skeg, sorry to interject, but the only place I could go to get figures was Tesco. And Tesco in my back home, it was shocking. Absolutely shocking. It's like some days you go in, you'd find absolutely nothing. Then other days, they'd have all the figures you want, but you only have the pocket money to get like one or two.
Yeah.
I never forget walking into a Tesco and seeing that they had, which one was it? Hondo Anaka. And it's like, Hondo's everyone's boy. Everyone wanted Hondo. And I'm like, Dad, I don't have pocket money, but I will do every single chore that you want me to do to have this figgy. You can put it on a shelf, have it there for me to look at, to work towards. I will do whatever. I'm your slave for a week. That's how I did it. I got my boy. But yeah,
always hustling, Daniel East 1000.
Yeah.
That collector show, NEC, that was the one place.
Yeah.
I suppose that's the equivalent of whatever import stock is these days.
Yeah.
Obviously back then, I suppose it didn't have a name really. It was just, these guys have got them early.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because I remember when they announced campaign, and it was like I was hyped to get that figure.
That was your video.
And and I was like, I can't find Cad Bane, and I went to NEC, and I think it was In Demand Toys, and they had a ton of them. And I was like, how have they got this many?
He ended up peg warming, didn't he? That original Cad Bane.
They repacked him. They
reissued him numerous times.
Made a better version.
Yeah, bloody hell.
This one cost me a pretty penny, just to get back to that one quick.
It's really obviously nice, that one, though.
This is like the definitive Captain Rex, even back then.
Mm-hmm.
It was so hard to get. Today, even more, I suppose. The card's not great, but I take what I can get with most of them these days, because, you know, it's a bygone era. They're never going to make them again, and for the most part, they were kids' toys. So a lot of them would have been opened, a lot of them would have been played with. I actually got the loose one I actually got about 4 years ago for 15 quid, just on a chance eBay listing. So again, death little stories that just add resonance to what's on your shelf.
But that's one of the things, isn't it, that you've just like briefly mentioned, that they were kids' toys, and with the Clone Wars line, they were, like I was saying with Power of the Force, they still went heavy on the gimmicks, didn't they? They, like that figure that you've just shown, that Captain Rex with he's got that firing jetpack. I mean, I've got him on my shelf. I'm not even going to try and get him off, but like you never saw that in the series. You never wore that, and I think I'm pretty sure they repacked that jetpack as well with Commander Code.
Yeah, the Darth Maul packaging.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same one.
Yeah,
there we go.
I'm kind of the opposite to you, Steve, because I can't stand those accessories for display. I mean, they're really cool when you're a kid, and the one that got me the most is the rotary cannon that they did.
Oh, the missile
Thing with
firing
that.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's in with Echo. It's so oversized to the point where it took me maybe the best part of a year to track down a couple of the accurate ones that came with the Yoda packaging Captain Rex, because it was the only time that they'd scaled it properly and it'd actually rotate, and that was lovely.
Well, if you need any more, then I've got 5 left over from my Jedi Fallen Order stormtroopers that I bought for my blockade runner. So if you need any, they're yours, mate. I'll send them you over. Because I'm not. I was thinking that myself. I was like, oh, I could use some of these with my Clone Wars figures, and then I'm like, I just can't be bothered to take them all off at shelf and redisplay them. So if you want them, mate, they're yours.
I'll certainly have a look and let you know. I've got the guys on the shelf. I wish I could actually roll the VT, because you'll be able to see them on there. The guys that should have them do have them.
That stands for videotape. So, so you've not actually narrated this one for us, have you, James?
No,
but when it plays, if there are any stories or anything that you think has particular relevance, be sure to chime in and let us know. But there is James's collection.
That display's sexy.
It is, isn't it? So good. It's another one of those. It's another one of those lines, isn't it? Where like the variety of stuff. I'm going to show it again just because it's like, we could talk about it over the top of it. It is just another one of those lines that is just full of variety. Like there's so many. Like the fact that they did Ganact.
Yeah, I actually pulled him off the shelf just to show, because
I love him. I love him so much.
He's such a rarity these days. Loose, I've seen him go for over £100.
Jesus.
There's Ron Perlman himself.
What an obscure character.
I love him.
What a really cool character. Like, even as a kid, that's one of the great things about Clone Wars is the storytelling. It's got this great way of appealing to all age groups, because even when I was growing up, I was like, the way that they represent him and he acts and the decisions that he makes, he could have given Anakin R2-D2 back, but no, he kept him for himself. He was a greedy little bastard, and he wanted some big pennies off General Grievous. You're like, oh, he's not to be trusted, is he, that guy? But you wouldn't get this nowadays. You wouldn't get a proper figure of him. And
I remember that battle pack being so difficult to track down. I don't think that is one thing that didn't get a UK release. I know that much. I might have lied to you about a lot of things, James, but I wasn't lying about that.
Didn't you get him from Tunguri, Steve?
I did, yeah, I did.
I think
that's where a lot of people
you mentioned the lockdown, Steve, and I did the exact same thing as you. When I was stuck there, I rewatched the Clone Wars, because even to this day, if I have a shitty day at work, or if I'm just feeling down, rewatching that, it jump starts me. It gives me the same energy as it gave me as a kid. It just makes me feel happy. It cheers me up. And so I was like, well, I've got a pretty decent collection of Clone Wars figures. They're all in boxes, stored away. But what about the ones I didn't get, and how can I put them on display? Because these really deserve a prime spot because of the relevance they have to me as a Star Wars fan and as a collector. I'm genuinely under the belief that I wouldn't be the person I am today without that show. It sounds so cliche, but even
I don't.
And I don't think I took it too literal as a kid either. But some of the, as some people online would say, the random philosophical quote that Dave Filoni would pull out his arse at the start of every episode, even those are lessons for people to learn from, Oh man, I can't say enough good things about it. And now, me and my mate Mark, we go on about it's just a bit of banter, really, because obviously Star Wars is for everyone. Nobody's excluded. But when stuff like The Mandalorian comes out, you get people that hype it up and they don't really want to put the investment and time into learning about certain things. So we go, oh, look, the casuals are back, is what we say.
Yeah.
And it's not to pull anyone apart. It's just a good laugh.
No.
But the amount of payoff and the amount of reward growing up watching the Clone Wars and Rebels, and now having these guys in charge of more or less everything that's coming out from mainstream Star Wars, I can't tell you how you guys know like how worthwhile it feels, you know.
Yeah,
100%.
It's that same feeling as well. It's like they understand, they see us, they know what we're thinking.
It's
You
also
know,
it's also what I love about Clone Wars as well is at the time there were some episodes that came out and I was one of those people online that was like, oh, that was such filler, oh, that was pointless, and I'm like, no, how wrong am I to then come at this point in time now as how all these shows are now feeding back into that media. I want to slap younger me and say you had it good, son. You did have it good. You little troll.
I agree with you, Dan. Back in the day, you know, as a kid, you think,
realise.
bloody hell, another episode about trade disputes and bills and the banking clan, but now
You
when I
like
go
to
back
have
and
more of it.
rewatch it, those are some of the best episodes of the
They
series.
really
as
are.
well.
Yeah, they really are.
That comment that you just put up, Clone Wars in the Snow, that's a video. I want you to remake that video someday, Steve.
Okay.
Whenever you get bad weather,
Yes.
it's like
Yeah.
that's the ultimate comeback for your
I'm
channel.
I'm not gonna lie, I was considering it recently because we had about six. Well, I don't know whether you got it or not, but we had about 6 foot of snow 2 weeks ago, and I thought, do I do it? Do I go out in the garden and put the ATT? But then I thought, I'm at that point now where, like, then I was like, oh, it doesn't matter if it gets a little bit damaged. But now it's like, I don't really want it to get wet. And there's a decent amount of dust on my ATT right now that probably won't come off. And if I put it in the snow, it's just going to melt to it. So I'm like, but I'm looking to diversify the content. So something like that might be a thing. I'm loving this now though. Like I knew that we did the right thing by saving this till last because it's bringing up a lot of memory. Because I think, not to like blow my own trumpet, but a lot of people who watched my channel, I know not a lot of them are around anymore and don't tune in, but a lot of people that do often come back often bring up Clone Wars as being a thing that they watched my videos for. So I'm loving that all this is coming back now.
Even in lockdown, when I was tracking down certain figures, I'd use your set of reviews. Somebody put a playlist together of all your Clone Wars reviews on YouTube. So that was my catalogue to go through. I need that one. I need this one.
Yeah.
This deluxe pack comes with this figure. That's the only way you can get it. So I'll have to find that.
I was going to say, I'm glad that someone else has done a playlist of my Clone Wars videos. I realized recently that that's one of the few playlists that I've not made. And I'm like, God, that's going to take forever to go back literally to 2008 and find every video that I did. So the fact that somebody else has done it means I don't have to. So that's awesome.
What I find really funny as well is, you know, because that's how I got into your channel as well, Steve. It was because of the Clone Wars around about that time, watching the content on that. But the fact that I watched your videos and I learned everything I knew about figgies for the most part and how to review them. And then when we met up at Doncaster, the long mopped, socially awkward man-child thing. I don't know what he was. He was definitely not as on camera. And then flash forward to when we were reorganising your displays, and we were sat there on the floor like, what accessory goes with this Obi-Wan? And then I were correcting you.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that. And then it's like, actually, well, in your video you said. That's the thing. It's just amazing how
the
how
pupil
that show,
becomes the master.
it's like the show just brought so many people. It brought a whole community together.
It really did. It really did. I mean, Clone Wars, Christ Almighty. I mean, it's still something I get asked about now, but like, it was during Clone Wars that I essentially started my channel and started this. And God, Clone Wars. I mean, I remember me, Rasputin 37, the custom clone troopers he used to put out.
Back when it was popular to do a joint channel.
Yeah,
That was like
it was like
the big Marvel Cinematic Universe event, weren't it? It's
I know,
like,
it was.
God.
It used to baffle a lot of people. Wait, hang on, you two live on the same planet. I don't understand. This is insane. How have you met? It's like things happen. But it is one of those things. And I think, like you've said, it has those special memories for you. It has those special memories for me because it's essentially the era that my channel grew up. Like Power of the Force is the era that I grew up, but Clone Wars is the era that my channel grew up, and what has now become such a big part of my collecting life and my hobby is the channel and what what it developed into during that time. So it's a massive thing. Is Clone Wars? It's I said about Power of the Force figures being history makers, but bloody hell, Clone Wars
At
really.
the time, for better or for worse, Star Wars was almost to a point dead. There was nothing on the horizon besides that. So really, every Star Wars fan had something riding on that coming out, and whether you thought it was good or not, if you don't think it was good, you're bloody wrong. I'm sorry. I'll be the most biased person in the world. I'll defend some of the worst Clone Wars episodes. One of the things I see online all the time that I hate, it's always big YouTubers that do Hot Toys reviews. I won't call them out, but they know who they are, and so does everybody else watching. And they'll say, "Oh, the first 2 seasons of the Clone Wars, you've got to just get through them. They're not as good as the rest. Bugger off. The first 2 seasons of the Clone Wars are some of the best."
Yeah,
because it's
100%.
It's as George would say, it's the old Flash Gordon serials. It's small, isolated stories, a valuable lesson to be learnt for the viewer. Get to see some of your favourite characters, do some cool shit for half an hour. It's wicked. The other seasons, that's when you get into your big storytelling, your massive moments. But you wouldn't have that if the first few seasons weren't a success. So I don't know. Just think about it before you open your mouths.
Yeah.
I've got some more figures anyway. Well,
yeah.
Oh no! Come on now. There he is.
This is my Grail at Celebration. I want to find one of these on the card.
Bloody hell! I hope you've remortgaged your house, mate.
I've got the money ready for what the roundabout amount of what I see him go for. I had a chance at getting one for about 150.
Bloody hell, that's cheap, isn't it?
Last year, but the bubble had been squashed and
okay.
then repopped out, so it was all stressed around the side. And I figure for something that rare and expensive, I want it as nice as I can get it. If the chunk of change has got to be spent,
yeah.
There's lots of coming back to when we were on about stupid random characters that you wouldn't see get made today.
Oh, there he is! Yes, I'm so jealous. That wave was insane.
To be fair, I saw Sidious in a Forbidden Planet once as a kid. Never bought it. Instant regret. I think I paid $90 for this loose, and that was 2019. So I haven't seen one since. Because trust me, any spare time I get, it's scrolling the saved search of Clone Wars figures on eBay. This guy's got a stupid little story.
Oh. Yes.
Again, saw the Sith Lord 229 video on this guy. I was like, gotta have that. I mean, what a cool episode, right? As a kid, Mace Windu fighting across that bridge. That was you replay that with your fitness. Come on. Saw this in a Forbidden Planet for 20 quid because they'd imported it. and there was no sign, I believe, at the time of this coming to the UK. Yeah.
That's a recurring theme.
So Muggins here pays 20 quid for it. Took some persuading from, to talk my mum and say, listen, this isn't coming out anywhere. I know it means now to you, but I need it and I'll pay the money for it. And then a week or two later, it's in Toys R Us for $7.99, and you couldn't move the bloody things.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things that I look back on now with regret as well, is the fact that not only did I mislead you and lie to you, but like you said, that it ended up in Toys R Us for $7.99 and they didn't shift. Like, I am livid with myself that I did not go into Toys R Us and think. And it's like you said, Dan, about the content. You had it good. You had it really good. Why didn't I pick up 3 or 4 of those different figures and just keep them?
Teska, right? There's
Yeah.
a list of them. Call Teska, who pegged one, and I'm like, I've got him now. I've got one carded. Don't need any more. And I just look at the aftermarket price. I'm like, I could have been sitting on a small fortune. Nadav Ebb.
Oh man! Oh, do you know
yeah.
what? Oh, I was gutted. I was in my mum's loft the other day looking through some stuff, and I found a carded Nadav Ebb, and I was like, oh, I'm putting this in the collection. I picked it up, and the bubble fell straight off the card.
Oh, no, I should probably check mine then.
The glue had all just gone. The glue was no longer glue, and the bubble just fell off, and I was like, oh, I'm gutted about that. Absolutely gutted, because it was like one of the last remaining relics. I think it was weird because didn't Argos give it away?
That's a story, isn't it? That
It's a story indeed.
One of those silly UK niches that you wouldn't nowhere else in the world could understand, right? This stupid little shop where you go in and you open a catalogue and you have to pick the item and the number. And then it comes down a conveyor belt from another floor, and it's there for you. But you can't have it yet because the person has to take it off the belt and give it to you. Right? I shamefully worked there for about a year, and it's not as magic when you've grown up. But $7.99 and whatever the new catalogue was, Nadav Ebb, mail away figure. Everybody in the US had to send away for that bugger, not us.
We got it before then. And someone here was the first person to review it until he doesn't have the evidence of that anymore because he deleted his channel, his videos.
Yes, I think I remember seeing either of your videos at the time.
I don't think I reviewed him, actually. I don't think I reviewed Nadav Ebb.
It was this fella.
Is it you, Dan?
I got the first one, then someone else after me. And I was a bit like, it was me who actually reviewed him.
Rasputin reviewed him.
He reviewed him.
Right, yeah.
Because there was a big thing of like, oh, Nadav Ebb's coming in the UK. Go to Argos. So I went down to the one in my local, picked him up, and I was like, oh, there's no shipper box with mine. So I reviewed it and did a pretty shite job of it, as per Daniel East 1000 back in the day.
Mate, we all had that early day content, you know. You look back on it now and you think, bloody hell.
Well, I can't look back on it, can I? Because
yeah, Pillock.
But
it lives on in everyone's memory, Dan.
That figure stays in my heart. He does.
It is one of those weird things, though, like you said about the Argos thing. Like, it is a bizarre concept, and it's one that I still can't believe they have held on to. Given the current state of retail, at least in the UK, like, I can't believe it's a concept they've held on to. Like, the fact that I remember Argos for buying. I used to buy a lot of my figures from Argos as well, and I've got vivid memories of getting the original Clone Wars Micro Series figures from them, and going into the shop and being like, it says assorted figures, so like you didn't know which one was going to come down.
It said 7 available. Why have you went with 1 down?
So you had to go to the screen and it'd say 7 available, and you'd have to select customer view as opposed to buy now to look at the thing before you bought it, so that you could say, no, I've got them all, sorry, and send it back up the magic conveyor
I've got
belt.
a story for that. You know when Force Awakens was coming out and it was Force Friday,
Yeah.
right? I was going to work before. Now I used to work at McDonald's, so I was in my McDonald's gear, and I thought, oh, I'll have a look round the village that I'm in, see what they have. And there's only a few stores that I could check, but I tried them all. Foolish me. I went into Argos and I was pushing it for time, to be fair. So I go up to it, it's like, we've got the figures in. And I was like, I wonder which one I'm going to get. So I'm stood there like, oh, they're going to let me pick. They're going to let me pick. I'd ordered 2. What comes down the conveyor belt? Stormtrooper and a TIE pilot. Right, they didn't even give me a choice because they definitely had a full case in the back there because I'm the first knobhead that's been to the... So they bring it down. It's like, there you go. I'm like, okay, thanks. Bye. Got to go to work now. Would have liked to have seen the others that you might have had. So my dad took me up to Asda in the next town, and I forced them to go in the back and get the full case out, and I bought the full case.
Got to be done.
Not my proudest moment being a Darren, but you know, it's.
I've had many a similar experience though. When the deluxe figure and vehicle packs first came out, and that first wave was the battle droid on the sort of mini tank or whatever it was. But then you got the 501st clone on the Bark Speeder, and that was the one everybody wanted. Forbidden Planet had it marked up to about 25 quid because
They did.
it was scandalous bastards. And I went to Argos. It was my birthday, so, you know, bit of money. Got figures like Kit Fisto and Jar Jar Binks, so lovely, I'll have them. And then there's that bloody battle droid tank, and the guy's like, are you having this as well? It's like, no, mate, no, wrong one, don't want that one. You haven't got any others, have you? It said 2 available. No, must just be 2 of this one if they've sent this down. All right, then, never mind. See you later. Goes away. A couple of months later, around this area, it's wherever this Argos was, I go in. Oh, they've got one available. I thought, well, if they only pull that bloody battle droid one out anytime somebody orders it, maybe now I'll be able to see what the other one was, and I'll see if that guy was telling the truth or not. so I put it on a view. Mum and Dad are over there looking in the catalogue. New tally extension cable, wherever adults were buying back then, right? down comes this 501st Bark Speeder, and there's just this kid. You know, and I was like, that guy's not here. Must have got rid of him because he was full of it. Knew it. It's like collector intuition. It's like, well, 2 and 2 is 4, and they're trying to tell me that 2 and 2 is 5. But I collect these things and they don't. They're wrong. Woolworths, when they went tits up, 2009. Wave 3 of the Clone Wars was just starting to come out in America, and I think some Forbidden Planets had them. Again, stupid prices. I walks into this backstreet Woolworths that's like, it's very rarely good for anything. And this was when the shelves had been picked clean by everybody that was trying to make a quick couple of quid off what they were selling off at like 80% off. All the Wave 3 on the shelf, £1.50 a figure. This was a few days after Christmas. I think they had until like the 1st of January, and then they were gone, erased. Like, that's unheard of. Instantly, arms come out around the shelf. Lovely. I'm having one of all of them. Merry Christmas to me. You know, wouldn't see that these days. I mean, HMV have still got a bunch of crap battle droids. You can't even see through the box. $28.99, whatever you want to pay for them.
Can't get over that.
That's why we buy nice things like this, because that $28.99 that I begrudgingly spend on new things because I'm a sad git and I can't help it. But that
You're
can
a
go
shill.
I'm a
You're
secret Hasbro fanatic. I've got pictures of Patrick on my wall and everything. I'm really going to celebration to get him to sign it.
That's it.
That's a video to watch out for, folks. When me and
Oh,
Dan meet
man.
the Hasbro team. Ha ha ha.
I must admit that's one of the very few things I am absolutely gutted about not being able to attend Celebration for this year is to like do this in person. I think the stuff that the exploits would have been legendary for definite.
I can't wait to do a video at the Hasbro booth.
Yeah, I am
Allegedly, there is 20 reveals across across Star Wars and Indiana Jones.
That's
I
either
don't care about a single one of them.
Yeah, if Hasbro, if there's any chance that Hasbro are listening, your 16 Boba Fett repaints don't count. Okay.
Also, with Indiana Jones, I'd like to actually buy the main character. You know.
Yeah. That's if they let you look at them.
That's it. They might pull an Argos on you.
That's going to drive me crazy because the one thing that annoys me is you've got these guys that work with the figures. They know how they articulate. They know how the character should stand. What do? Hot glue gun on a piece of plastic in a glass case. See you later.
It was the same in 2016, to be fair, and I imagine it's the same at every celebration and con that they go to. But it was the same in 2016. That you'd got. I think I've got pictures on my Instagram somewhere of the AT-AT driver from the Black Series just limp. Like, and Jyn Erso just like knee sagging. She's looks like Jessie out of Toy Story when she's just.
Andy's coming, guys.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know what it is. I really don't. They should just get the photographers, the guys who I forgot what's his name on Instagram who does the toy photography for Hasbro. I've forgotten his name. It's gone, but I follow him anyway. He gets sent the figures to pose and photograph for the press shots, and like you can tell he's really really passionate about getting dynamic poses and getting the figures to look like the characters. Just get him to set the booths up.
Yeah,
bring him in. Get it done because he can pose them figures a hell of a lot better.
Well, all the pictures he takes, the characters are in accurate poses, and that's a big thing for me because again, I'm a sad git, and I don't.
That's it.
I don't let any detail sort of fly by because as a Hot Toys collector, the thing that annoys me the most is when you have all these guys buying these really expensive figures, and then they think because it comes with every accessory. It has to have every accessory on the figure while it's on their shelf. A company is producing the most accurate collectible of said character that you could possibly want. Okay, if you spend a little bit of time on it, you can actually make it look like a miniature person. Yeah,
I can't say anything because I'm not guilty of it with like Hot Toys and Sideshow and stuff, but with Black Series figures especially, I am guilty. If a figure comes with multiple accessories, I'll display it with all of them. Like I've got Light Cruiser Luke displayed with the lightsaber in his hand, but the hilt on his belt as well. Oh no, not that one. No, what am I talking about? That's wrong because he doesn't come with two lightsabers.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. Not that one.
Sith Lord 229 lying again.
What am I like?
What is this?
I'm gonna get myself a reputation. No, what I meant was the Dark Times Vader because he comes with the hilt and the lightsaber. I've got the hilt on his belt and I've got the lightsaber in his hand. I think for me it's more a case of just I don't want to lose it. Somewhere to put it, and I've got if I just chucked it in my loose bucket accessories, when it came time to do a video on it, I'd be like, shit, where did I put that? So
which one's the right one?
Exactly.
I'm not knocking people for it, You bought the bloody thing. You bought the bloody thing. Have it however you want.
Yeah.
But I'm just.
No, to be fair,
I'm easily wound up by.
It's warranted. It's warranted if you're slagging me off because obviously I'm YouTube's most misleading toy reviewer. Clearly, I owe everyone an apology for getting the costume wrong on the Light Cruiser Luke. Jesus, that started a debate, hasn't it?
What really?
Yeah, I'm not going into it. It's basically people are like, no, that's the wrong costume. It's not how he looks in The Mandalorian. I'm like, isn't it? Really? Are you sure about that? Looked at pictures, it looks like it. And then everyone's, no, look at the Hot Toys. That's how an accurate perception of how it should look. And I'm like, oh yeah, but I wasn't going to split hairs over it. Do you know what I mean? And I mentioned that it was a combination of looks in terms of get in bin. I don't mean that. Don't get in the bin. Please continue to watch my videos.
There's two ways of going about something like that, and I suppose this is what divides most of the Star Wars community, whether it's over films or figures. It's their attitude towards, oh, I know a piece of information, but you're wrong because you don't know it. How about instead of going off like that, you go, well, here's a little thing you might not have picked up on. If you just look at this little bit, Luke, for example, it's like, well, in that scene, if you look at particular parts, he's wearing the more traditional Jedi robe from the prequels. It's like overlaid. Nice little, what a cool nod that after Return of the Jedi, he wears something that's very evocative of what all the Jedi before him wore. You don't have to be a knob about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, that's one of the things that I didn't actually pick up on about the tunic on Jedi Luke is the fact that, because I was looking at stills from the series and you don't really get to see what's under his robe. So
it's hard to see in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, so I was just like, well, it looks pretty accurate to me. And then because I'm not a Hot Toys collector, so I don't tend to pay that much attention to Hot Toys images. So then when somebody said about if you have a look at the Hot Toys figure, then that's where you'll see that that's how it should look. I'm like, yeah, I get what you're saying. They are different. Thanks for letting me know, sort of thing. I didn't realize that was a thing, but like you said, don't be a dick about it.
You don't want to look at Hot Toys pictures anyway, Steve. I did that once upon a time, and
what happened?
Yeah, there we go. The Family Guy
what can I say?
With the credit card debt that springs to mind.
I mean, I think we're all doing that. We all, I think looking at the time to wrap things up, we all looked at a Star Wars figure once and look what happened. So, but like I said, I think looking at the time, we'll put this one in the bag and wrap it up. But thank you, gents, from the bottom of wherever for tonight. It has been absolutely fan-bloody-tastic. The chat's been alive, so thank you for everybody who's watched and
much appreciated, everyone.
Tuned in and dropped a comment. I really can't stress enough how much I appreciate the interaction that goes on in these things. I think when we did the Mandalorian recap a couple of weeks ago, we picked the wrong time for it, and not a lot of people tuned in, and I really missed that. I missed the interaction aspect of it. So thank you to everyone who's tuned in. Luke, Adam, Milky Way Skywalker from Instagram, everyone, Leathery Man, everyone who's tuned in. Can't again stress enough how much I appreciate that. Can't stress enough how much I appreciate you guys indulging me and letting me talk about my little side quests and talking about the passion project that is Power of the Force 2. Again, tons and tons of memories about this line. If you're only just tuning in, sorry we're wrapping things up, but please do go back and watch the replay, because I think genuinely this has been, I know we've only done a few, but this has been by far my favourite stream we've done. I've really enjoyed it.
If I droned on a bit too much, I apologise. I hope you can understand the passion.
That's it. That's what I...
This is like in there, man. I don't know how, get my emotions across. I'm a man, to put it stereotypically, but it means an unquantifiable amount to me, the storytelling, and that's why I want to meet the Clone Wars guys at Celebration. It's a lot of money to say thank you for and have a chat to them, but it means something, and we're all here for that reason. Something means something to you, or it might do if you haven't really gotten into it yet. Sorry, say goodbye to any savings you ever thought you would have in this world.
Absolutely, but no, that is really one of the things that I've really enjoyed about this stream is the stories that we've shared and the emotional connections that we've made with not just with Star Wars, but with these little plastic men and women that we buy and put on our shelves. And like we said earlier on, a lot of people will pass judgment and say, "You spent a lot of money on this. God, don't you think you should stop? It's getting a bit out of hand." Yeah, maybe so. And not every collectible has a story behind it, but the ones that do that's something that money can't buy. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely loved hearing your guys' stories. James, especially, bloody hell, that's brought back some amazing memories from a golden era in Star Wars collecting. And I think it's definitely something we're going to have to tap into again in the future. I'm really excited for your Clone Wars retrospective video.
Yeah.
No pressure, but
Yeah.
pull your finger out, mate.
I'll do my best. It's in the pipeline, as is everything else these days. Work, unfortunately, is, as most people go into work, it's nobody wants to bloody be there, but can't buy the toys, can't make the video if they don't go to work. So the wheels of progress and all that nonsense.
What a note to wrap up on. Star Action Figures, the guys over there, amazing stuff, guys. Keep it coming. Thank you for tuning in.
Big up Star Action Figures. Also, just to let everyone know, Star Action Figures are stock in Legion. Am I okay to say that? I'm saying it anyway.
Now.
I've said it. Get your Legion stuff from Star Action Figures, boys. You too could have a big collection.
Big up Star Action Figures for sticking to Hasbro as well. One day they might make cardboard boxes big enough for what they make.
Yeah, that's that's a really good point, actually. Like just not to suck bum or anything like that, but just to point out Star Action Figures, the amount of not confronting, but the calling out of Hasbro's inconsistencies, shall we say, is appreciated in the collecting community. So, guys, if you are watching, thank you very much.
Papa bless.
But yes, Celebration's been mentioned a couple of times in the chat. So just to reiterate and go back to what we talked about at the beginning of the stream, we are going to be doing a Star Wars Celebration Europe 2023 recap, discussion and review on April the 14th, around, to be confirmed, 7 p.m. UK time. Dan and James are attending in person. I'll be watching from home, but we're all going to approach Celebration with a different perspective and talk about different things that we've seen and that were revealed and announced and all that sort of stuff at Celebration. And I really, really do hope that you can tune into that one as well. To anyone who's watching who is attending Celebration themselves, have an amazing time. Speaking from experience, Celebration Europe 2016 was insane and one of my favorite Star Wars memories. So if you go in, if it's your first one, you're going to have an absolute blast. And I can't stress that enough. Money's tight, I get that, but you'll make money back. You won't make these memories back. So
times are hard, friends are few.
If you see us, say hello. I might, we might be awkward and really unsociable, but aren't we all?
I'm actually planning, if it's all right with you, Dan, I am going to pop you a bit of merch for the channel, just that if anybody comes and says anything to you, let them know I'm there in spirit and chuck them some stickers and some badges and stuff.
Well, that's it. You're going to make me look proper like a dick now, aren't I?
No.
Where's your stickers, Daniel East 1000? No, I'll do that. Come and see me, and I'll promote Siflo 22. I'll be there in spirit for Siflo 229.
That's it.
I like some stickers like I did last time inside some boxes at the Forbidden Planet booth for you, mate.
Yeah, do that, and I'll and if you do get to a panel, make sure you throw some business cards at people.
Oh yeah, I'll, like that at the Hasbro panel. Throw one at Patrick.
Yeah, there you go.
Come on, now, big boy.
That's it. Make sure you hit him in the eye.
What's this that's hit me in the face?
But yeah, really looking forward to that stream, guys. If you can, like I say, if you can put a few snippets of content together that we can showcase in the stream, that would be fab. We'll probably use that as an opportunity to sort of share some of the photos and videos that you've taken at the event and what have you. And yeah, we'll talk about all the things that are no doubt going to get revealed, all the figures, all the media. It's going to be good. Going to be good. So yeah, we'll wrap things up. Thank you everyone for tuning in once again. Thank you, Dan and James, for joining me for another one of these, and we'll no doubt
always a pleasure
get together again soon. I mean, it's only 2 weeks till Celebration, isn't it? So that means it's only 3 weeks until the next one. So
yeah, go to work for one more week, and then stress time.
Let's see if tickets show up.
You'll have an amazing time. You'll have an amazing time.
buzzing for it.
Right.
Yeah, thank you
That's
everyone
good.
that's watched
Yep.
and listened. Always appreciated.
Thank you, and we'll see you all on the next one. I haven't signed one of these off yet with it, but I'm going to do it now. Until next time, keep collecting, and all together now,
May the force be
Force
with you.
be with you.